Believe it or not, they are now blaming men for women not being able to, quote, for women missing out on becoming mothers. What? That's right. Full court press here, although it is not what you might readily tell yourselves who it is exactly that they're blaming and why, or at least who's doing the blaming, because in reality it's not the women. Now, this comes from the Independent, which is out of the UK. However, it does touch on America here, which is the reason why I want to go ahead and review this article with you all here, because this one just came out and there is so much in here to cover. It is a loaded propagandistic story of the article of the lowest, most guttural kind. Headline: Women missing out on motherhood because of delay in men maturing, think tank claims. The Center for Social Justice said more men should be encouraged to work.
Nigga, what?
Now, this is the thing right here that I stopped right there for when it said that men should be encouraged to work and marry at a younger age to tackle falling fertility rates, from Rebecca Thomas. Says here that hundreds of thousands of women, the number is much higher than that, are, quote, missing out on having children partly because of a delay in young men maturing into adulthood, a report has claimed. So they don't say, here's the real issue. They don't say that the problem is the men don't desire this generation of defective, deficient females, this generation of undesirable females. They don't say that. They say the problem is that men are not maturing into adulthood. And how exactly are they defining that? The Center for Social Justice, a think tank founded by Tory MP Sir Ian Duncan Smith, said around 3 million women aged between 16 and 45. Wait a minute. I just want to stop the train right here for a moment, because we just took a detour to Epstein Island. This thing says women aged 16 to 45.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.
Hey, independent, women? Women between the ages of 16 and 45? Now, a lot of folk talked about this article, but if you didn't actually read it, you don't know what they're actually slipping in here. So I actually could be bothered. You all know me. I can actually be bothered to read these things, which is why so many YouTubers put out stuff that's just fallacious and false and silly and wrong and stupid, and the world gets stupider as a result. I actually read this stuff. And so when I read it, I just couldn't help but notice that they were very clearly saying, women between the ages of 16 and 45 are projected not to have children under current trends. If birth trends were the same as their grandparents' generation, we are not under the same conditions as grandparents' generation. We're not under those conditions. So just take a look here. Totally and completely wrong here. This is what passes for an article here today, completely dismissing the last 60 years of events. We are not in our grandparents' day, which they're always reminding us when men say they want traditional women. They always remind you that, well, this ain't grandfather's time. Okay, well, what you want from men, it's not grandparents' day either. It's not grandfather's day either. No. You still need to act like it's grandfather's day. No. No, if it's no longer grandfather's time for you, it's not grandfather's time for anybody. There's the real problem. So, of course, they want to have their cake and eat it too. If birth trends were the same as their grandparents' generation, then around 2.4 million women, you mean the ones between the ages of 16 and 45, would not have children. It means around 600,000 fewer women are having children, it said. The paper, published on Sunday, cited a range of reasons for falling birth rates, including declining marriage rates and the later average age at which women are having children. Okay, so they're not blaming the women for their decision making. Once again, how can we weaponize this against men? How can we weaponize this against men? We'll find something that women are doing to themselves, and we'll blame the men for women's decisions. So, if the women do something that they like, they get the benefits, and if their decisions turn out badly, well, just blame the men for it, even though it was your decision. Well, if you men had stepped in, now get out of my way. Okay. But the report also suggests male unemployment and education trends may play a role in falling birth rates. The report said that, quote, in the past, a 24-year-old man would have likely been married, had a child, and been working for a decade. Folks, am I the only one who notices that this Center for Social Justice keeps pushing ages back into the teens? Am I the only one who notices that? They're making an article here and specifically citing, for the males at 24, been working for a decade, that means he would have been working since he was 14 years old. So he would have been working since he was 14 years old and been married and had a child. Am I the only one who noticed it for the females, 16, for the males, 14? Am I the only one who noticed this? Yeah, somebody. Who is the damn editor at The Independent today? Jeffrey Epstein? What? Woody Allen? Alan Dershowitz? Who is the damn editor at The Independent now? John Wayne Gacy? So in the past, a 24-year-old man would have likely been married, had a child, and been working for a decade, but now men are only leaving home at the age of 25 on average. And what about the females? Oh, never mind. Didn't mention a word about that. Okay, we'll just gloss over that. One way to tackle the UK's falling birth rate is to encourage marriage at a younger age and for men to, quote, enter adulthood earlier than 25. Not a word in here yet about the socioeconomic environment, and most importantly, not a word of, wait a minute, are these females suitable for marriage? Everything's putting responsibility on the men, what the men need to do. Men, you just need to go get married. The women are fine. You all just need to go get one. You mean the women who are out aborting their kids at crazy rates, started marriage with that. So you have a psychotic government, a psychotic media establishment saying psychotic things. And by the way, this is the guy sitting up here trying to badger you. The Center for Social Justice was founded in 2003 by Sir Ian, a former minister for work and pensions. Work and pensions under the conservative government. So in other words, he is concerned about males entering the workforce. He's concerned about males entering the workforce. He wants males to enter the workforce because they don't have enough people to work. They don't have enough people to work here, which is why they've been bringing in illegals from everywhere they can. The government is unconcerned about, quote, the men. The government is only concerned with the oligarchs, only concerned with the wealthy, only concerned with keeping their captive system of capitalism going for their own benefits, only concerned about the economy for themselves. So we need the plebes and the peasants to get back to work. And we need the men to just work. Who cares about the defective quality of the females? Who cares about your defective quality of life? You need to just get the hell back to work so that we can keep this Ponzi scheme of that we call a government going. The CSJ's report is also supported by Miriam Cates, a former Tory MP who has been outspoken in her concern about declining fertility rates in Britain and has called for policies to promote marriage and having children. These are the same folks who will tell you have abortions at the drop of a hat. These are the same folks who would tell you that out of one side of their crooked mouths and their forked tongues, they tell you women need to have abortions at the drop of a hat, and then they're complaining about the falling birth rates. This is literally what's going on here. This is literally what the folks in government are doing, and then the media backing them up. It goes on to say here that elsewhere, the report recommends that the government explores so-called pronatal policies, which incentivize people to start or grow families, such as tax cuts and conditions for benefit changes. So in other words, giving free money to single moms. Let's give tax cuts to single moms. Let's pay them to go have children, and then you wonder why the STD rate is out of control. So this is what they're talking about. And by the way, everywhere this is being tried, it's failing. In Korea, in Hungary, in Russia, everywhere they're trying, in Japan, everywhere they're trying this, it isn't working. This is not a matter of, well, can you give a tax cut? You have multi-billionaires buying up everything, and the middle class has been wiped out. Housing is government policy that the old bastards of the baby boomer generation are keeping anybody else from being able to build a house. Now, they got plenty of houses built for themselves after World War II, and then as soon as they got in charge of government, they made it illegal for anybody else to build a house for themselves. So this is why it's so expensive for housing today, because the old bastards want to make sure that they got theirs. And, oh, you're going to bring too much traffic through here if you build a house for yourself. We don't want any more apartment complexes or subdivisions. It ruins the nature of the neighborhood. It's changing the nature of the neighborhood, and it's making population grow, and it's making it too dense. So it was fine for them when they moved to the suburbs and made the population grow and made traffic more dense. It was all right when they did it. But now it's your turn, and they're saying, oh, it's wrong for you. You're too much of a problem. We don't need any more housing. We're going to go and protest at the city council meeting because, you see, young people have to work, and old farts can sit up here and go to city council meetings. They can afford to take off and go to city council meetings because they don't do anything else. They've already robbed and raped all the wealth. So now all they do is go around promoting policies that benefit them, even though they're on their last damn leg of life and the other leg's on a banana peel. So to say that they are the absolute most reprehensible, degenerate generation ever is me being kind. So in any case, it also said that creating financial incentives to have children without addressing low marriage rates is, quote, putting the cart before the horse, citing an analysis published in the Financial Times. Oh, so the issue is not simply having children. They want the men to go to work. Because you see, when it comes to having children, women do not keep up with lifestyle inflation. Women do not say, okay, I'm working 40 hours a week. Let me work 80 hours a week because I got 3 kids and I'm married, so I can get a bigger house and send the kids to a private school. That's not what women do. Women go to work and then say, I'm working 40 hours. How can I work 20 hours and still keep my job?
Oh, please.
That's what women do. Women go to work and say, how can I work fewer hours and still keep my job? Men are the only ones who go to work and then say, okay, I'm working 40 hours. I got a wife and kids and a house and a car. I need to work more hours. So they tried and failed to shift that economic burden from the men to the women. They tried it. It failed. It doesn't work. And worst of all, it has led to population fall off. It didn't work. It's not on its way to failing. It's already failed. Now they're scrambling to try to correct it because they realized that they thought that this was going to go a lot slower than it did. And in reality, it actually just dropped off a cliff because Gen Z is like, screw a job altogether. And that wasn't what they thought would happen. They thought that as the males got younger, the males would be equally as desperate and thirsty for sex, so that if the female said, okay, well, you still have to buy this house, even though the houses are more expensive than ever, the cars are crazy more expensive, and we put a bunch of crazy regulations from the old bastard boomer generation, and we made it tougher than ever, so you'll have to work 5 times harder to get half as much. They thought that sex alone was going to motivate the younger males because that's what motivated your grandfather. The problem is your grandfather had a higher caliber of female to work for under a far more beneficial and advantageous economic environment. It was much easier for him. The females were much nicer, easier, more desirable. Wasn't a single mom all over the damn place. There weren't a bunch of STDs. He was highly incentivized. Now with Generation Gomorrah out here, with Generation Concubine, Generation Slut, and Generation Gomorrah, men are no longer incentivized anymore. The quality of the females is in the damn gutter. So there's nobody to work the 80 hours anymore to try to get on this hamster wheel. You don't have enough of them anymore. It is the men who have opted out. And the females who are now screaming because they're not gonna pick up the slack. I'm gonna come back to this later, but let me remind you all, women are not sitting up trying to set each other up for a soft life.
And deal with it, nigga.
Women are not going to do that. It is only the men who are going to do excess work in order to get excess capacity to take care of excess people. Women have a tight, low cap, and they are not going to exceed it. Women do not believe in working themselves into a heart attack to take care of a family. They believe in going to OnlyFans, making an easy buck and an easy dollar, but she is not anytime saying, okay, take care of the family or die. And they were hoping that the women would eventually kick into that mode, and surprise, surprise, it never happened, because it's never going to happen. Now it says the Financial Times article included in the report does not specify marriage, but does link fertility to falling relationship rates. It said from the U.S., Finland, and South Korea to Turkey, Tunisia, and Thailand. Folks, this is global. That's why I'm doing this tonight. And even though it's from the Independent in the UK, this is global. From the U.S. to Finland, South Korea, Turkey, Tunisia, Thailand. They got their alliteration going. Falling birth rates are increasingly downstream of a relationship recession among adults. Downstream. So in other words, what happens is that the men are opting out of relationships. The women cannot pick up the slack because there's a certain life that you have to have in order for that to occur. And because that's not happening, that's a wrap. Because that's not happening, that is a wrap. That's what occurs. So the situation is devastating. And this is why they're writing articles and sounding the alarm. Because everything's going bad all at once, and they're seeing that you're not going to grind to a halt. You're just in free fall and going to slam into a halt when your body hits the ground. The men are no longer pursuing relationships, and that is the trigger that lets you know there won't be any more children. That the men are not pursuing relationships anymore. So all these articles talking about how males are not having sex, not initiating relationships, not going to bars, not drinking. I've been covering all this because they're letting you know, hey, by the way, the end result of all this is the mating ritual, and the males have opted out of all the factors and avenues and practices of socializing to begin the mating rituals. There aren't enough men in the top 10%. Men in the top 10% ain't looking to knock up 7 or 8 females and take care of 7 or 8 households. Only jackasses in the NBA and NFL, and those guys are summarily worthless. Furthermore, there's only a couple of hundred of them. You're not going to keep a population of 400 million people going with a few jackass breeders in professional sports. It's not working. It can't work. The math is against you. It was a delusional fantasy in the first place. So that's what they're now understanding. There's not enough men in the top 10% to take care of all these slutty chicks. And the bottom 80% of males are just sitting on the sidelines. And up until now, they want to sit up here and make articles. But it's like, by the way, when you take a look at the math, this has frightening pretensions for the future. Baby bonuses put the cart before the horse when a growing share of people are without a partner. Even in parts of sub-Saharan Africa, similar trends may be underway. People, this is global. The catastrophic and putrid decline in the quality of females is leading to this. There's nothing for the men to say yes to. There's a bunch of leftover trash, but there's nothing really for the men to say yes to. Globally, the most unpleasant and undesirable generation of females that we've probably ever seen. There's nothing to say yes to. And now the politicians are taking a look because, you see, usually they would try to bring in more breeders from the third world, but what they're noticing is that even the so-called third world, the results are the same. It's not changing over there either. It's not changing over there either. The think tank's suggestion is to incentivize marriage through tax cuts.
Nigga, what?
These are the morons and the idiots running the government, and they think everything is about throwing money at the situation. Well, the reason the men aren't having children is because we haven't given enough money. And here's the thing. They want to control how much you get. That's the problem with this tax cuts garbage. Tax cuts are not an answer because that's government trying to control how much you get. Well, if you still make the same amount, I'll eat less of your money. As opposed to, no, I decide how much I get and you stop advancing policies that are undermining that. But the other problem is you can't give us enough money to lock us up in your crooked, corrupt system with the most unpleasant, undesirable generation of females ever. You don't have enough money to get us. This isn't, well, you know, if you give me enough money, then I'll make myself a slave to the system and a slave to this wacky broad over here and have to deal with the divorce courts and child support courts and all the other nonsense. Okay, well, you can give me enough money to deal with that aggravation, because we're going to give you a tax cut, and then we're just going to come back, drag you through the courts, and extract it back from you in the form of alimony and child support. We're going to extract it back ×5. We'll give you a little penny in the ass tax cut so that you can go walking off in a diabolical exploitative situation. And then after you do that, then when you get divorced and child support, we're going to tax the hell out of you then. We're going to go grab all that back. I mean, they really do think men are this stupid. And the reason for that is because the politicians don't talk to men anymore. They just want to tell you what you're going to do, but they don't actually talk to the people anymore. So the think tank suggestion, a think tank that doesn't think, is to incentivize marriage through tax cuts, as if tax cuts are the problem, comes after Reform UK MP Matt Goodwin was criticized for saying in a blog that people who don't have children should be taxed extra as punishment. Now, why is this guy not running up a flagpole? Why is this guy not run out of parliament? Why is he not? Why is he not run out of there? For him to say something like that. Why is it they haven't gotten rid of his ass already? We need to punish people without children. What the hell? I mean, some of these folks right here, they done got real damn bold. As if he's a radio commentator and not a politician representing anybody. So, well, if you don't have kids, we just gonna punish you. The think tank said falling fertility rates could also impact the ratio needed between pensioners and working age people. And this is what it's all about. There are not enough men working. The women refuse to take the necessary jobs to make up the shortfall, and there are not enough new people being born in order to keep these Ponzi scheme pensions going. So that's what this is all about. And said that to maintain the ratio, the state pension age would need to rise to 75 by 2093. In a report published in January 2025, the UK's Office of National Statistics said total fertility rates had fallen between 2012 and 2013. Don't let anybody lie to you all and tell you that marriage rates are doing great, everything's fine, the pandemic corrected that, we're having enough kids. Don't let anybody lie to you. Folks, there's a whole equation you have to look at here. Don't listen to any moron or jackass lying to you, telling you everything is fine. Everything is not fine. They're sounding the alarm right now, specifically because everything is not okay. They're already seeing, hey, this is bad. And the problem is that eventually you reach a point where even if the whole society attempted to turn around, you've gone too far down this road. Once you reach a point where you're halfway to this point or 75% of the way to this point, even if the whole society decides to start having children, remember, it's going to be a few decades before those kids come of age, much less to start replenishing population. So it's not going to be as simple as that. Not going to be that simple. No, you're going to be in trouble way before you get to 2093. You'll be in trouble way before you get there. That's why they're sounding the alarm now. You will be in trouble way before you get there. Remember, you're going to have whole cities that don't have enough young people to take care of the old. Folks, when you consider services like paramedics, EMTs, hospitals, public works, you already got folks out here, they see some old person at Walmart or some old person working DoorDash. You're going to get to this critical issue here in certain jobs way before 2093, in certain fields, in certain cities, way before you get there. Before now, you could count on a new crop of young people coming up to take care of the old, what they're telling you is the numbers are falling. So you're going to have a bunch of places, Florida being a big one, where you're not going to have enough young people to replace this way before you get to 2093. Way before you get there. It also said fertility rates for women in all age groups under 30 years are projected to decrease, while age groups over 30 years are projected to increase between 2022 and 2047. The ONS asked a panel of experts to outline various factors that could impact fertility rates and found the cost of living crisis would reduce fertility in the short term. Okay, reduce it by how much? How much would men want to pay to have a disagreeable, disruptive, argumentative female? How much will a man want to pay for that? Well, if the price of housing would come down, that would make it more desirable to share a house with an undesirable female and all her kids. Okay. Climate change.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.
Like I say, the silliest, stupidest group of, quote, experts in the history of man. I just imagine it's like characters from the Mad Hatter or Dr. Seuss sitting around the table, a bunch of characters from Tom and Jerry sitting around the table being asked to map out social policy. Climate change could have either a negligible impact or may reduce fertility. Yeah, because the last time somebody said they didn't want to have kids, well, there's global warming. Change to child care funding will have a limited impact in the short term. Who's going to pay for that? Females have no problem talking about free, quote, child care because she can't get the men that she gets pregnant by to do anything for her because she's not worth doing anything for. So, well, let's just get the public to take care of me and all these kids I'm dragging around in my Walmart cart. International illegal immigration patterns may influence future fertility levels without any sort of clarification about that. Conflicts will either put, quote, downward pressure on fertility or have a negligible effect. Conflicts, I think they're talking about wars. So, yeah, folks, they are bugging out over here. They're bugging out. They're having all kinds of consternation. There's all kinds of problems cropping up here because they're looking down the barrel and they're seeing that this is not working out. Nobody put any long-term thinking into it. The baby boomers have created an incredible mess. They're eating high on the hog, but now they're worried because they're looking around and realizing there are not enough young people to take care of their old asses as they decline into powder. And so now what they're sitting up here doing is saying that, well, we need to see if we can figure out how to get more out of you. And what they're finding is that, by the way, it becomes a hamster wheel because you can't just have a bunch of females out here having children. You have to have families that invest in and contribute to the economy. If you don't have that, it's worthless. That's the issue. Without them contributing to the economy, it is worthless. It's worthless. You can't build an economy with a bunch of single moms and their bastard kids. You have to have some men in the equation who are going to make this work. That's the problem. They're sitting up here saying this garbage because they don't really know what to do. They understand that the problem is that the men are the workhorses, the socioeconomic workhorses for a society. The men are the socioeconomic workhorses, and without the men saying that it doesn't matter how expensive things get, we'll continue working, without that, it's not going to go anywhere. The women will not make up the shortfall. The women ain't trying to figure out how to be ballers and shot callers. The women don't want to do it, and they won't do it. And the more you shift the burden to them, the more the women just say, screw this. The more you attempt to do that, the more the females say, yeah, to hell with this. Women are not going to chase affluence. Women are going to click likes. They're going to click likes on social media, but they're not going to say, okay, I got to become a millionaire and work 80 hours a week. She's going to sit up here and talk about being a boss bee while taking off of work early. That's what they're going to do. That's all it's going to be. I want to show you all why this is frightening them so much here, and then we're going to come back to this in just a moment, because remember, I was reading for you, the Independent was talking about the Center for Social Justice. They were talking about the Center for Social Justice, but if you don't actually read what the Center for Social Justice had to say, then you might not see why it is that they're so upset, and the Independent doesn't necessarily do a great job of summarizing this. So I've gone to the work here of finding their report for you all. And then I'm going to show you all something else that these people are not talking about. And they're not talking about it because they can't talk about it. It says here, the children today to work until 75 as birth rate collapse fuels pensions time bomb, warns report. Pensions time bomb. You all notice the article I read from the Independent did not put this in its proper relief and in the proper focus. Did you notice that? I read that whole long article from the Independent, and they didn't tell you that this is economic. This is not about women missing out. They characterize it as women missing out, when in reality the report is about, hey, we don't have enough children to keep this economy going. Says here, the state pension age would need to hit 75 to maintain today's worker to pension ratio. So in other words, folks, you have to work till you die. Britain now needs 250,000 more births every year.
Damn!
To maintain a stable population without illegal aliens. And folks, they've already let illegals in from all over the damn place. And they're letting you know the illegals came to Britain and just found it was a hell of an expensive place to live, that they can't afford to take care of children either. So short term, they'll live in poverty, but they're a drag on the system with all the social ills they bring with them. And oh yeah, by the way, it doesn't fix anything. Collapsing family formation means 600,000 women today risk missing out on motherhood compared to grandparents' generation. Now, this is the thing. These scumbag politicians, remember, they pit one side against the other, but ultimately they decided, okay, we'll back the women because the men are the engine. We need to exploit the men. So we're going to tell the women that, yeah, you all are no good, but it's the men's fault. They did not say that. Why is it the men don't want these women? They don't see these women as marriage material or mother material. The women are not missing out on motherhood. You got plenty of hoes and sluts out there being single moms. The problem is they are a drag on the economy. That's the problem. So the women are missing out on being mothers to men who are actually desirable. That's what they're missing out on. And of course, they don't want to say that because then you have to say, well, the men are available. Why? Okay, men, why don't you want these women? Oh, they already know why the men don't want them. They already know. But they're not going to address that or even bring it up because this is about getting the men back under heel and getting the men back on a leash. So the men get back to work with no questions asked, give up their entire life of labor and productivity, hand it off to the government, hand it to women and children who will just give it back to the government, and then the peons and peasants on the plantation are back in line again. So it covers a lot of the things we were talking about there before. It says here the researchers say the pressure is being driven by a long-running demographic shift. Analysis of figures from the ONS show that in 1970, there were 4 working-age people for every pensioner. By 2025, the ratio had already fallen to 3.5 workers per pensioner, and under current trends, it's expected to fall to around 2 workers per pensioner in fewer than 90 years. At the same time, the UK is setting record low birth rates. In 2024, the UK's total fertility rate fell to 1.41, far below the 2.1 children per woman needed to maintain a stable population. The Center for Social Justice warns that this demographic imbalance means fewer workers will be supporting more retirees, fewer men, because when the women go to work, the first thing women do when they go to work is try to figure out how to go back home. Soon as women get a job, let me get back to the house. How much time off do I get? Can I get some maternity leave? FMLA. I'm not feeling so. I need a mental health day off. Hey, where's my air conditioning and my carpeted office? Plenty of jobs outside in the sun. She's like, oh, hell no. Let me go see if I can get on some welfare and some food stamps. I am not pulling this wagon. Soft life, even if I haven't earned it. So no, the women are not arguing and fighting with the men to pull the wagon, and certainly not trying to pull as much as the men. The Office for Budget Responsibility.
Nigga, what?
Okay, a government talking about budget responsibility, has also warned that on current trends, UK public debt, the public debt could rise to around 270% of GDP by the early 2070s. Remember, I told you that you're going to be in trouble way before you get to 2093, folks. You're going to be in trouble way before you get there. As aging pushes up spending on pensions, healthcare, and social care, you see, you're going to get the increase in these expenses now. You'll get there way before 2093. 2093 is just when all hell is already broken loose, and by then you're already eating your cats and children. Britain currently has around 13 million people aged over 65, a number expected to rise to over 17 million by 2043, increasing the share of older people in population from roughly 1 in 5 today to 1 in 4 within 2 decades. The report, so in other words, from 20% of the population to 25% of the population. The report also finds that Britain now needs almost 250,000 additional births per year to maintain a stable population. In 2024, there were 831,075 people turning 50, but just 594,677 births, leaving a birth gap of around 30%. The think tank argues that without a reversal in declining birth rates, younger generations will face growing fiscal pressure as they, not the old bastards who are running up the bills, as they are expected to fund the pensions of the old and lame, health care costs for the increasingly elderly population that got us in this mess to begin with, because they want to make sure they can cruise and coast to the grave without ever suffering the consequences of their irresponsibility, debauchery, and hedonism. The report emphasizes that the pension system is funded by current taxpayers rather than by individuals saving for their own retirement, meaning the sustainability of the system depends on a sufficiently large working age population. The men. The Center for Social Justice also notes that higher levels of immigration have temporarily slowed the demographic shift, but cannot solve the underlying problem. Yeah, because they bring in illegal aliens to destabilize the very men that you expect to work to maintain your Ponzi scheme government. So Elon Musk can rack up baby mamas and become a trillionaire at everybody else's expense. As age and fertility rates among migrants also tend to fall over time, what did I just tell you? The first generation has a bunch of kids. The second generation cannot afford to do it. The report says that falling birth rates are largely driven not by smaller families, but by a rising number of women never becoming mothers at all, often because family formation is delayed by economic social pressures. So in other words, they're either in denial of this first sentence, driven not by smaller families, okay, not by people choosing to have fewer children, not by men and women getting together and deciding we will have fewer children, but instead by men not getting women pregnant at all. They try to raise women not becoming mothers at all. Why don't they say because the men have decided the women are not suitable to be mothers at all? Why is this sentence not said that way? Because this is your dumbass political class. It just shows you how stupid they are. They think that this is some type of shaming tactic. Women use, when you gals, it's not your fault. Yeah, it's your fault. Yes, if you were wife material and mother material, anybody takes a look at OnlyFans, Instagram, Facebook, yeah, if you were wife material and mother material, this would not be the case. But they don't want to have that conversation because they try to use the females to bully down on the men. Its analysis suggests that around 3 million women aged 16 to 45, 3 million women age 16 to 45 are projected not to have children under current trends. If motherhood rates match those seen among their grandparents' generation, that figure would be close to 2.4 million. So this means that around 600,000 women today may miss out on motherhood compared with earlier patterns of family formation, many of whom hope to start families but face growing barriers to doing so. The report therefore calls for a renewed focus on supporting family formation. Well, that's a family starts with a man and a woman, not a woman and a bunch of kids. Supporting family formation earlier in adulthood, arguing that Britain must begin addressing the social and economic barriers that prevent people from having the children they hope for. So Edward Davies, research director of the Center for Social Justice, said, quote, Britain is heading off a demographic cliff edge. When fewer children are born, fewer workers enter the labor force, and the burden of supporting an aging population falls on a shrinking number of taxpayers. If we try to maintain today's balance between workers and pensioners, children in school today could be working well into their 70s before they qualify for a state pension. This reflects a catastrophic failure to support the next generation of families. Most young people still want children, but too many feel unable to have them. If we want a sustainable economy and a society that cares properly for the elderly, we must start taking family seriously again, without ever addressing the elephant in the room. Folks, I could say many things to you here tonight. I wanted to go over that to let you know that they are over there freaking out and whatnot, and they are refusing to deal or even to mention what the real problem is, because this is about subjugating men. This is about bullying men. This is about the men need to get back to work. We need the men to work their asses off. We need the men to get fully invested and fully vulnerable to the system so that we can exploit their labor for life. Men work 3 times as hard as women, 3 times as hard, 3 times as much driven, because as I've told you all for decades, and no one can deny this or lie about it, men are willing to die for $1 or £1 if you're in Britain. Women are not willing to die to make $1,000. She's willing to do some work, and she's willing to work relatively difficult for herself as long as it's not manual labor. But men are willing to work and kill or die for $1. So women will never match men, not now, not ever, till the universe burns out of stars. The women will not do it because women do not believe in dying for $1. This is why if you're a male out there stupid enough to say that marriage is a business in 2026, No, because women do not define business the way that men do. Men will die over business. Women will not. Women will let you die over business, but she's not going to die herself. She's not going to die herself for it. So that's why this is all going to hell and falling apart. But it goes even further than this, because there's something else that I wanted to show you all here. See, here's you know what? Let me show you something else first. I was going to go in one direction. Let's go in a different direction. Let's go ahead and bring this on home. Let's bring this back to the USA. We're going to bring this back to the USA here, and from Bloomberg News. Want to catch you all up on some mathematics here. Let's catch up on some mathematics and demographics from Bloomberg News. America is minting lots of cash-strapped millionaires. This word millionaire should come in quotations. I've talked about this for years, talked about it for the longest time. We're going to go ahead and take another opportunity to remind you all about what this is really all about here. At the height of the Gilded Age, so 19th century basically, there were 4,047 millionaires in the U.S., according to an 18-month investigation by the long-gone New York Tribune, which listed each by name in a special edition published in 1892. Today, the number of millionaire households, the reason I went to this article is because this is not actually accurate in that regard, but the number of millionaire households is more than 2.4 million, or almost 1 in 5 U.S. households, according to Bloomberg analysis of government survey data through 2023. Fully a third of these modern millionaires have been minted since 2017 as home values and the stock market surged. That doesn't mean they're walking around flush with cash. And this is why I wanted to show you all this article here to put this in its proper perspective. Instead, more and more millionaires' wealth is locked up in assets that can't be accessed quickly or easily, like home equity, or increasingly age-restricted requirement assets like a 401k or IRA. Add in the effects of inflation and higher interest rates, and financial advisors say $1 million no longer assures a secure retirement, much less a golden ticket to the plutocracy. The quote, the word millionaire once implied automatic affluence, says Ashton Lawrence, an advisor at Mariner Wealth Advisors in Greenville, South Carolina. Quote, the goalposts have shifted. It's still a meaningful milepost, but for most people, it's no longer enough. Did I call it, or did I call it?
And deal with it, nigga.
For all the haters who hate it when I remind you that a decade ago I said this, and I already told you all that the number was, since the pandemic, that the number was actually closer to 3 to 5 million. Hang on, they're gonna get here. Don't worry, Bloomberg, we're talking about the eminent financial newspapers and financial agencies like Bloomberg. They weren't saying this a decade ago. They weren't saying this 5 years ago when I was saying it. They're waiting until everything has gone to hell, and now they're finally adjusting their numbers. Now, how is it these people are supposed to be professional organizations, and they haven't adjusted, and their whole job and profession, their business, is analyzing this data, and they didn't say it a decade ago, but I said it a decade ago, and they're just now saying it in 2025, going into 2026. Now, how is that? Maybe that's because they're the bad guys. Okay. The $1 million threshold used in the analysis takes into account debt and other liabilities. Despite this relative affluence, today's millionaires rarely have anywhere near $1 million to spend. So when you think of a millionaire, you think of somebody who's got $1 million in cash that they can put their hands on. And what they're telling you is, oh, no. When some dummy talks about how much a person is worth, it's like, no, he's got nowhere near $1 million in cash that he could actually put his hands on and go spend. He'd have to give up his house, give up his 401k. So he has possession of assets that may be $1 million, but he cannot convert them into cash without destroying his life. That's the point. There's a difference between net worth and net income, people. And the so-called millionaires today do not have $1 million they can put their hands on. For the barely millionaires, households with a net worth between $1 million and $2 million, the vast majority of that wealth is illiquid. That means it is not liquid. That means it's not cash. It cannot flow. By the way, y'all, when they talk about money, they call it currency, like electricity. So if it flows, that's one thing. They're illiquid, which means it's frozen. It can't flow anywhere. It's locked up in an asset, and you'd have to unlock it from that asset, which also means you'd have to liquidate the asset. You'd have to liquidate it. In the chat room, Paul S., I'm going to get you to call up here in a minute and go ahead and explain that to everyone. I'll get you to call up here in just a minute. Very, very glad that you have the wisdom to impart an insight here. So no more comment in the chat room. We'll get you up here so you can go ahead and call us up and explain to everybody what it is exactly that they don't understand here. So we'll go ahead and get that from you here in just a minute. Hang tight. For the barely millionaires, households with a net worth between $1 million and $2 million, the vast majority of that wealth is illiquid. That typically had 66% of their wealth tied up in a primary home or retirement accounts in 2023, an increase of 8 percentage points since 2017. To spend freely, millionaires typically need to be a lot richer. Folks, households with $5 million or more had about 24% in easier to access bank or brokerage accounts in 2023 compared to 17% for those closest to the $1 million mark. 5 million. 5 million. I said this half a decade ago during the pandemic. I said it half a decade ago then. I told the world about it then at that time. There were some folks who didn't like it. There were some people who didn't like it because me saying that had terrible consequences for their future. And they did not want to believe that the numbers were running this far away from them. They wanted to believe that everything was holding still and that they could go ahead and continue at the same competitive rate of their grandparents. And I was like, buddy, we lost that a while ago. And not only that, we've entered a whole new world. That place you talking about doesn't exist anymore. 6 figures. You all never heard me say that because I've always told you it's got to be a whole lot more than that. It would have to be the high 6 figures as a single man for you to count as high value. I corrected those things from the very beginning because you can't just take those terms and throw them out there and then they have no context to them. You can't just do that. It's not the way that works. You can do that and be wrong. You can't do that and be accurate. And now it's a bunch of other folks out there and whatnot who are now acknowledging that, yeah, this isn't working out so great. This is not working out so great. What happened? What happened is that the folks you've been listening to have been giving you bad information and bad advice. They were not accountable for it. They were saying a bunch of lopsided, loony things, but They were not standing on any of it. Not at all. Not at all. And folks need to take a moment here to say, you know what? We need to ask a few more questions about why it is that folks don't want to have children today and what it is that they're really looking for from the men. What is it they really want from the men? What do they really want from us? And what they really want are workhorses. They really want the men to go back and be diligent, committed workhorses. They really want that. And that's not what they have. They don't have that. What they have are males who are holding the cards close to the vest. They're taking a look at what's out there. They're taking a look at what the world responds to. And the men have said, you know what? For the reward that we're allegedly going to get, it's not worth it. There's the issue. The reward that we're in line to get, what the hell do you get today for that kind of work you're going to be putting in? What exactly has a man got to look forward to? That's the question that none of these jackasses at the Center for Social Justice or any other are asking. By the way, is there $1 million worth of femininity for a man out here to work for today? If this is what a man has to achieve today, is there $1 million, or do the women today possess $1 million of femininity? $1 million of pleasantness, $1 million of agreeableness, $1 million of sacrifice, $1 million of loyalty, $1 million of anything that we would desire. This is the part that none of them want to address when they put together their little think tanks. None of them want to address this. And this is the only question that matters, because you're asking men to sign up for a lifetime of a bad, terrible situation so that the country can keep going, and the country has not expressed sufficient loyalty to the men. That's what's happened. It's a bad deal. It's not worth it. If you want the men to gain $1 million, $2 million, $5 million worth of wealth, then he has to get $5 million worth of reward. And there really isn't a female situation that's doing that. Now, the Zoom link is showing me that YouTube must have made some changes, because I'm showing the Zoom link is pinned to the bottom of the chat now. Usually it shows up at the top, but it looks like it's pinned to the bottom of the chat. So if you've been told to call up on Zoom, you need to go ahead and click the link there. You can see the little lightning bolt. It says to call us. You click that. It's got the Zoom link. So if you've been told by the mods to call in, you have to do that. So yeah, there's not $1 million of benefit out here, and the females don't offer $1 million of femininity or reward. So why would a man go make a few $1 million or work himself to gain $5 million in value to get with a female who's bringing $50 of femininity, and they're online bragging about it even more? And I warned folks about this half a decade ago, and Bloomberg News is just now giving the real numbers that I talked about half a decade ago. They're only just now doing it. Now, it says here, to be sure, $1 million remains a life-changing amount of money for most Americans. The median household income in 2024 was $83,730, while the median account balance across Vanguard Group's 4.8 million retirement plans last year was barely $38,000. years. What? Well, folks, Vanguard has weighed in. They're like, it's barely 38,000. Okay, my mods are telling me that the Zoom link is at the top of the chat. For me, it's showing at the bottom, but all right, well, wherever the damn link is, if you've been told by the mods to call in, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that. In the meantime, let me jump over here on Zoom right quick. I got somebody here on Zoom. By the way, if you've been told by the mods to call in, just remember you'll be gone if you don't otherwise hear. Whoever's on Zoom here, I don't see anybody, so I'll give you 5 seconds. Make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on just for me. There you go. All right, now, how do we pronounce this? Let's not do that, ma'am. Let's not do that. Go ahead and just leave it on. Just make sure we don't have any trolling issues. Nobody's going to see you except me. I just want to make sure we don't have any trolling. We just don't want to have any trolling going on. So as long as that doesn't occur, we're fine. All right.
Okay.
How do we pronounce that name?
May.
Hello, May. All right, May. Now, what's on your mind?
Well, I love the fact that you talked about the fact that these people, the elite, the people who are in control of the economics, they're manipulating and using these false narratives, particularly the gender war. I think that's a fair argument because I would just say that that's what they're doing, trying to shame men into being exploited. I absolutely think that's true. And that's what they're good at. You know, they're using AI and all these different things, robotics, and they're pushing people out of jobs, taking men's jobs. But at the same time, this is kind of diabolical. Then you want to pressure them to work for less. It's insane. But I will say this, too. As a married woman, I've been married for 20 years. I work as a team with my husband. And out of all our married friends, they either have 0 kids or 1 kid. And I can honestly tell you, it's not a gender war thing because I'm married happily. And, you know, we got 1 kid. That's what we can afford, you know. And most people who are married, they're not having 7, 8, 10 kids. So it is an economic thing. I would argue that, too. That's my thought.
Okay. Well, you know, that might be a factor in it. It might. However, I also think there's another factor that's far bigger. I have to be honest about that. And I don't think we're having an honest conversation in society around the world about this. Men have plenty of children with a female, and then they work to go ahead and take care of those things if the situation is suitable to them. If a man likes a woman, she's going to stay pregnant. If there's a problem, you're going to have fewer children. And I think that that's really the heart of it. I think a lot of women think that, the plan was to have fewer children, when in reality, the man is like, let me hit this brake pedal. Because the situation isn't as desirable.
Brother, is the goal to have family or to just like impregnate like Elon Musk?
There's no reason to marry a woman if you're not going to have children. There's 0 reason. Why do you have to marry a woman if you're not going to have children with her? Marriage is simply to help facilitate the production of bloodlines and the merging of bloodlines. So there's no reason to get married to a woman if you're not going to have children with her, because you're beginning the, quote, family process. But in reality, you're not going to make a family because there's not going to be any children. So she can be your companion without you ever marrying her. That's not a requirement. Men, that doesn't really incentivize a man to, quote unquote, have a small family, because that's really the only reward that he gets for entering into a marriage with a female. Is legacy and bloodlines. That's all he gets. So if he is wealth rich and genetically poor, what in the world was he working for? Let me get all this excess capacity for nothing. That's literally not the way it works, and that's literally not the way we're biologically wired. What's happening today is, for most men are getting into situations and they find out later it's not as desirable. And that's really what happens.
Yeah, I think the incentive for women is probably, I'm talking about regular women, not weird, crazy women or off the rocker. But I think for productive women, marriage is the incentive to have children. And
yeah, because marriage is an instant bump in income for females. So there's the difference. If you remove the financial benefit component for women, only when women go online and talk about, quote, marriage, they don't mean marriage. They mean lifestyle inflation at somebody else's expense. That's what they mean. They never say marriage as what I'm going to do for a man. You don't see Facebook posts and Instagram posts about what they're doing for man. When women talk about marriage, the only thing they talk about is what they're getting. They don't talk about what they're giving the men ever. So this is a big con job that's going on. So once again, women get their benefits up front. The man has to wait for his if it ever occurs. If you marry a woman and only have one child, once again, it's like, was this really necessary? Because he's going to put a lot of money into this, a lot of time, most of the rest of his life. And did that really balance out? And to be totally honest, that's going to be a hard sell to have. Let me find out here. You said you all have one child. How old?
She's 9.
Okay. And how old?
Yeah.
Might I ask, how old are you?
I am 48. Yeah.
Okay. You waited till your 40s to have a child.
Damn, yeah. Yeah, because that's expensive and it's a big responsibility.
How long?
And me and my husband,
how long have
we
you
don't
and your
believe.
How long have you and your husband known each other?
We've been married for 20 years.
I didn't ask that. How long have you known each other?
24 years.
There you go. Now that's the number I really want. There it is. So you've known him since your mid-20s.
Yeah, mid-20s. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. And we've been married for 24 years. We've been married for 20 years. We met 24 years ago. We've been married for 20 years. We didn't have a child until the last decade.
Yeah, because of economics. Yeah, economics. It's real. I mean, you have to afford children. I mean, quality of life. I mean, it depends because some people, they don't mind being on food stamps and Medicaid and all this other stuff. That's not me and my husband.
Well, let me find out here. What city do you live in?
Live in Atlanta.
Okay. 24 years ago was still pretty affordable in Atlanta, so that's not the answer.
Well, kids cost a lot. They really do. I mean, they're not
back in 2008. It didn't. We had to
get our income up. We had to buy a house. We had to do a lot of stuff, set up things financially correctly. I was getting my education, you know, and he's educated already.
I was getting my education. There you go.
I got 4 degrees, so yeah.
Exactly. Might have asked what your 4 degrees. Now, do we have a PhD or are we counting 4 different fields?
Ironically, I quit the PhD because my my specialist for infertility, she said, give up the PhD or you're not having a kid. And I gave it up. So I got a specialist.
Right. So even your OB-GYN tells you that, oh, y'all haven't had children because the wife is prioritizing school.
Not the wife. We both had a vision for how much money we needed to make.
Ma'am, you're the one on the biological clock there. So you just said she told you that if you go for a PhD, you just said that now. So
yeah, I did.
That's not we, that's you. Let's be clear. That's why I asked you now, how many degrees in how many different fields?
I got a bachelor's and 3 graduate degrees in education.
Okay, so all of those are in the same field.
Yeah.
So
I was an English teacher.
So she kept going back to school.
Correct, to increase the income.
Okay, but
it's all economic.
But she kept going back to school.
Yes.
Right. And that's my point. See, I
got to contribute my part, don't I? Don't I have to pull my part of the income?
Yes, and your part of it is how many children are we having? Because at the end of the day, just understand this, and I'm not trying to be denigrating here, but I'm just making this as a teaching moment to everyone. When you are in your last 24 hours of life, you will not be wishing you had gotten more degrees.
Agreed.
You'll be wishing you had more children. You'll be wishing you spent more time with your husband. You're not going to be wishing you spent more time at school or more time at the office. You'll be wishing you had spent more time with your family.
Agreed.
And what I'm saying,
if I could turn back time.
Right. So if you're really honest and objective about it, if you go back 20 years ago, which in this case would be 2006. We hadn't even entered the financial crisis yet. We were still in Iraq with a bull job, but we were not in the financial crisis yet. And what I'm saying is you prioritized your career. This is an age-old story. You prioritized your career. You all could have been a good working class family. You have your children, and you'll catch up on the career later because you can go get a job anytime. You cannot be a mother anytime. You got a short window to be a mom. You got the rest of your life to go get a degree.
That's true.
And that's the thing we've been running into here for decades, which is, and let me just be, your husband ain't around right now, is he?
No.
He doesn't listen to me, does he?
No,
okay,
no, he does.
Good. This is just between you and me here, so let me keep close to the microphone so everybody ain't listening.
Right.
Yeah. Let's be real. Women only get a degree because that's the insurance policy. Just in case this relationship don't work out, I gotta make sure my money right, just in case things don't go a certain way. So that's the only thing a degree is useful for in, quote, I need to make more money in my career. Don't you have a husband? Yeah, but I need to make sure I got my own money. Okay, the only thing that's good for is breaking out on our own.
I don't know, Jason.
I do know.
With my husband, I wanted to build, and both of us can help build together and come together. I wasn't trying to get a free ride and have somebody take care of me. I didn't.
I literally just said the opposite of that. The women get degrees because it gives you veto power. Just in case I don't like a rule that he lays down or something here. If I want to break out, I've done kept my income going up. So just in case I need to file this insurance policy. Yeah, that's the only thing that's good for, because I say again, wait a minute, you got a husband. Why do you have to get more degrees? You got a husband. You see, your job does not have loyalty to you. As an educator, you know that. Your job does not have loyalty to you. Not nearly to the extent that your man does. And yet, he's committed to the family and she's committed to, now let me make sure the job's able. Okay, the only thing that's good for is, well, just in case things don't work out with him, I won't be falling too far. That's the only thing that's useful for. It's literally not useful for anything, because the only person that benefits would be you. And that's all. I
contribute to the household, but I'll say this. If I didn't have a degree or any education, I'd be out here making $7 an hour at Dollar Tree.
Okay, but here's the thing. I'm pretty sure that you don't have to work at all to have 3 kids and go back to work in 4 years.
How many women do you know that are married that are stay-at-home moms full-time? How many do you know? I don't know any.
Well, I can name a few that I personally know.
That's what I'm saying.
However,
most women work.
I can understand the socioeconomic situations, but here's the thing I'm getting at. You met him in your 20s. You got married to him in your 20s.
Right.
Right. What more did you need? So what I'm saying is that you prioritized career.
No, I don't want to be on welfare, and I don't want to be begging and trying and not able.
Okay, let me find out here. What does your husband do for a living? Just so I can get this out of the way.
Well, we're both retired now, but we retired in our 40s. He was a Georgia Power worker doing like engineering.
Oh, please.
And then he also, what?
Okay, so he worked for Georgia Power.
Yeah.
Okay, this man wasn't struggling. This man wasn't making no damn minimum wage.
Correct.
Okay, so let's stop that. He wasn't making no minimum wage when you met him.
You know how Atlanta lifestyle is. We got
lifestyle. Yeah, the lifestyle is he met a typical black female in Atlanta, career female, and let me make sure I got my insurance policy, ma'am. He could have supported the both of you and the few kids for 4 years. He had plenty of benefits for that. He certainly could have. You could have taken 4. You could have taken. Yes, the story is she was getting her degrees and prioritizing her career. That's the story.
They decided to outsource what he does to a bunch of Indian companies, and there went the job security. So
Okay, you said he retired. Did he retire from Georgia Power?
No. Well, he retired from there, but I mean, as far as staying as long as he was going to, no, that was cut shorter. But he retired out of it.
Well, the bottom line is, ma'am, as I said, when you two met, yeah, he wasn't making minimum wage. Yeah, you could have swung that. You sure could have. However,
well, Jason, you can be working class if you want to be. I don't prefer that, but no.
Okay. First of all, there's nothing wrong with being working class. That's the first thing. I will tell you one thing, though. When a man pulls back on the number of kids, if you got a female who ain't all in and he sees that, don't be surprised, and everybody does the same thing. I'm not going to get off folks' business. I'm just doing the math real quick, but this is not about being working class. There's nothing wrong with being. Let me correct that real quick. There's nothing wrong with being working class. I'm pretty sure you've met plenty of working class folk just this week, and if you're not making $500,000 a year or more, you're working class, ma'am. Right. So, do you live in Buckhead?
No, I never said I was wealthy.
Okay.
But when I think of working class, I'm thinking of people like, maybe our minds are different about working class.
Right, because you said you were a teacher.
People who might need assistance.
Right, because you said you're a teacher.
I was a teacher.
All right, a retired teacher. Okay, so a retired teacher. So a retired teacher is not working class?
But I think we got different ideas of, I think it's professional class, middle class.
Okay, so a professional is not working class.
It can be, I guess.
Tell me a professional who is not working class. I'll wait.
Well, I didn't say I don't know. I guess we just see things different. I see working class as sometimes people who are basically getting just enough money to survive. That's kind of how I see working class. I don't know if that's correct. You tell me.
No, I'm asking you.
Well, in my opinion, working class people are just above the poverty line. People who might make $80,000 or less. That's working class to me.
Okay.
For household. Yeah, that's my thought of working class. And I can say this during the pandemic and all this stuff that's been going on. A lot of people are going to food banks and stuff. I haven't had to do something like that. So those are the type of things I have wanted to avoid.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to invest,
I'm
not to ever be like that.
And how long have you not been working class by your definition?
Let me see. In my 20s, I think I was working class for sure.
Okay.
I was working for very little money when I was in college for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about?
I was making, as a teacher, I was making about $100,000.
Okay.
Myself. Yeah.
So about when did you start making $100,000 as a teacher?
Probably in my mid 30s.
Okay.
By the time I got my master's degree.
All right. So you're in your late 40s now.
Yeah, I retired at 42.
Right. So, like I say, certainly you're not in poverty. I guess in Atlanta, 2 incomes making that. Certainly you're not living on breadcrumbs. Which is perfectly fine. There's no problem with that. All things being equal, when you run the math back, by the way, this is all lining up with everything I said before. This is all lining up with it perfectly. In your 30s, yeah, you could have done all this then.
I said, if I could turn back time.
Right. And that was the point I was making, is that she waited till her 40s. And I'm like, yeah, actually, she could have done this in her 30s. She sure could have. There was nothing blocking you from doing that. And you wouldn't have been, quote, working, or you wouldn't have been in poverty wages either. You could have done that. You sure could have.
Yeah.
By the way, and if you work for the state, you already had pensions and maternity leave and all that already. So you had that in your early 30s, not your late 30s. You had that in your early 30s, but you didn't use it. So all this stuff
you got me.
All this stuff about income, whatever. I'm like, that's out the window.
You got me.
That's what I'm saying. Try that on them young folk who don't know any better. Try it on them. For those of us who've been this, like, baby, you've been having this since then. And between the two of you, now what you did have were 2 working professionals, and that's great. We need that. We need as much of that as we can get. I want to see that all over America for my people. That's great. That's fine. That's wonderful. But at the end of the day, I also want folks to be honest about where they're at. Very, very important for that. So very, very important. But thank you very much for giving us a call. We appreciate that. Yeah, y'all. Yeah. I'm going to just say this. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing here. Ladies, let me just put it to you like this. Let me just throw this up on the screen right quick for you. Yeah. They're ladies, when a man got the right chick, he ain't trying to have just one or two kids. He ain't really trying to do that. That's not really what he's trying to do. I'm just going to say it like that. Ladies, when a man got the right female, he ain't just trying to have one kid. One kid is what we call a genetic standoff. One kid is what we call a genetic standoff. Take a look on your screens. When a man got something like this sitting next to him there, it's like, let me get about 3 or 4 of these. So, let me just give y'all a reminder. When you're in a situation and things are kind of flaky and you're not really sure, and she's kind of putting her career ahead of things, and everybody's got an insurance policy and they're not sure what they're gonna do, and well, they say they in, but they also kind of out, and that's not the way it works. When a man got the right female, he ain't trying to have just one kid. No man wants to be raising an only child. No man wants to raise an only child. What happens is the female is like, okay, I need you to prioritize me. And when I get ready, assuming, of course, the doctor can crack these eggs open, these hard-boiled eggs open, and let me see if I can get one out of it. But it's no. No. No, folks, it's when things seem a little bit stiff and hostile, when it seems a little bit stiff and hostile, and men start saying, okay, let me just get one kid here because we might have to go see Judge Wapner. So just in case we end up in the people's court, let me just get one kid here. And a lot of females think that was family planning. A lot of women think it was family planning, and old men meet a chick talking about her career. And okay, baby, I don't know if I want to have no more kids. Baby, we've been married for a decade. Yeah, I'm just not sure if we should have any kids. Well, Jason Young, we held off. We held off? Okay. Well, I'm need to get my degree and go get me another degree. I need another degree. It's okay. Well, he said he's all right waiting. I'm sure he is. All my friends, their husbands is all right waiting too. I'm sure if all of y'all about the same. Them niggas sitting there holding back. Yeah, they called everybody in the family to find out if this is a good idea. But I'd like to show you all something else here because it goes further and it gets deeper. There's something else I'd like to show you all. What I want to show you is something else here. And I was going to make this its own independent program, but I decided not to do that. I was going to make this its own independent program, but instead we're going to deal with it right here. And I would like to tell you I only have one, but you can find a bunch of these. You can find a bunch of these, as you can see the caption here, and there's a bunch of videos from a bunch of females finally on a date with a 10 out of 10. And yeah, you can see for yourselves. Yeah. This is what's going on in Atlanta, in Miami, in New York, in LA. Okay. Why is it that the men don't want to have these children? Why is it that the men don't want to have children with this crop of females? Why is it? Why is it? Just in case you thought it was just one, no. Here's another one, different account, different women, whole 9 yards. But by the way, here's another one. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Look at how dutied up and dolled up they are, by the way. Isn't that amazing? They get in front of the men and they come up wearing their damn Timberlands and their overalls, but they go to Instagram. It's like, oh, wow, okay, she found her soft life with a stiff chick. What? She found her soft life with a stiff chick, but then again, it's not soft life because females don't buy anything for other females. Women do not take care of other females. I just wanted y'all to know. By the way, this is some of the foolery and stupidity going on out there, but that's not the real point. That is not the real point, people. This right here is the real point. Take a look on this screen. Female after female after female with the emojis. Talking about they like it. I love to see this. Strong goals. Female after female. My hottie date, another female. I'm doing this with another female. Yeah, you wonder why the men are sick to their stomachs. Yes, these are females in their damn primes, y'all. These are females in their prime. These are not the old waste buckets in their 40s and 50s. These are the females in their prime. And do you see how long I can sit up here and do? I knew it would never be a man. Okay, do you see how long I can keep this? Oh, this big body bends over here. All right, baby. The only man you need to be worried about is the lion tamer or the dude down there at Barnum and Bailey. That's the only man you need to be worried about. The damn horse whisperer. Don't you worry about the rest of us. Yeah, you knew it would never be a man. You knew it would never be a man. Yeah, if Ringling Brothers needs a backup, if one of the horses at Ringling Brothers blows out an ACL and they need a backup, they'll give you a call. Yeah, if one of the elephants hurts his ACL, you'll get the call, ma'am. So just stand by. Just stand by. So yeah, I'm praying for this for me. Praying for this for me. I found my people. Okay. I wonder why the men don't want to have children with this. I wonder why the men have backed out of this. Hop on over here to the other one. 400 comments. Oh, well, yep, here we go. Here we go. Yep. Here we go. I want to be the fork. Okay. Yeah, there you go, man. There you go. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm flirting with y'all. Yeah. Okay. Where are the men? Where are the men? Yeah. Why is it the men don't want to have... Feed me next. Why is it the men don't want to have any children with this generation? Why is it the men have backed out of it? Why is it the men have done that? Let me explain to you. When you see this kind of garbage here, ain't gonna be a Benz, ain't gonna be a Bentley, ain't gonna be a Birkin bag. Women don't do that for other women. You're never gonna see a woman sitting up here talking about she bought her female bae a Mercedes. Not gonna be any big red bows on no G-Wagons. Women do not take care of other women. She'll take your ass to Olive Garden or Ruth's Chris on your birthday, and she only if she gonna get to eat half the meal. She is not going. Women do not give other women a soft life. This is an exercise in stupidity and futility. I guess you think you're flexing on the gram with all this fake horse hair, but the bottom line is women do not give other women a soft life. It ain't happening. You never met a lesbian couple where they were giving each other where anybody was living a soft life. Two working class chicks who get their nails and their hair done, but nobody is pulling up to the Bentley dealership, the Rolls Royce dealership, the Aston Martin dealership. Nobody is walking into the Prada store. Nobody is doing that. But the thing I want to show you all is look at all the females. Forget the chicks who posted this. Take a look at all the females co-signing it. Take a look at them. going on and on and on. Take a look at them. Okay, this was hot in you. Okay, baby, you big as hell. Okay. All right, this made me blush. All righty then. All right. We had a well-needed Mexican date. All right. Where are the men? The men are running in the other direction. I just want you all to see how many females over and over and over. Us at Longhorn this weekend if the weather is good. All right. All right. I love you both. Okay. Why have the men said, yeah, enough of this. Enough of this. Yeah. Enough of this. And just to show you all here in the background, you can take a look. Yeah. A bunch of chicks. Yeah, this is what every female wants. A female wants to go to a place and hang out with a bunch of broads. This is exactly what every woman is dreaming of. Going to go hang out with a bunch of broads. And then you're stupid enough to sit up here and ask, why is it that the men are not fighting anymore to make $1 million a year like that? Why is it those numbers have come down, but they're really saying, we ain't gonna have no kids with these chicks? Yeah, that's why. Because this takes a hell of a lot of hard work for a man to do, and the females are out here, lost their minds. So, and the government doesn't want to talk about that. Go have your abortions and go do this LGBT nonsense online. But when the bills come due, then go screaming at the man, who's going to pay for these children? Who's going to pay for this mortgage? Who's going to give me my soft life? Who's going to finance this retirement? Heifer, get up. Who's going to finance the damn retirement? Get your ass back over there, and you and your girlfriend can finance your retirement.
And deal with it, nigga.
Get your ass back over there. You two can take care of that. Go do that. Right there. No, everybody wants to disrespect the men, but then they want to sit up here and sound the SOS and start cracking the whip and say, okay, we need all you men to jump up and kick it into gear. It's like, no. Get these chicks over here, Longhorn, to go do this. No, if they're going to sit out and be silly, it's like, okay, why don't we just sit back and watch everybody just be silly over here? But yeah, now the Bentley or a Beamer or a BMW in sight is, they can take each other to a restaurant, and that's about as far as a female is going to extend herself for another female. Females don't buy each other houses. Females don't buy each other $300,000 cars. Females don't buy each other $5,000. They don't buy $5,000 handbags, much less $25,000 handbags. Women don't do that. You're not going to see any of these hoes. He got his house. I sure did.
And deal with it, nigga.
You're not going to see these hoes sitting up here buying each other gifts on Valentine's Day. They'll be done broke up with each other by the end. No, there's not going to be any expensive gifts. There's not going to be no Instagram bombing. They don't do that. They'll show up at a little funky ass restaurant and then post something they can put on their reels. But as far as assets, women don't provide assets for other women. Women do not provide protection and provision for other women. They don't provide assets for other women. They don't provide expensive gifts for other women. Then they damn sure don't provide a soft life for another woman. There's no female who ever woke up at the age of 18. I would love to have another chick that I can give her a soft life. This is why the government is mad at the men, and the men, because the men have said, yeah, have kids with this defective disease generation. This is the worst, most backwards, defective generation of low quality females in the history of man. Unfit for motherhood, maternity, or matrimony. So you can save all that badgering and pressure about getting married and having children when these are the options. Chris Rock said it 20 years ago and it was still true. Hate to see the men who have to choose out of this bunch. And that's how you end up with a bunch of old ass retirees sitting up here grabbing whatever they could from the damn strip club, and they're not going to have any children with her either. This is where we at today. Bum dudes who don't care who they get pregnant. Okay, well, you're going to suffer with him. And the fellas who got something, it's like, let me ease back on this. I ain't really trying to have no kids like that. What he's telling you is that I don't have kids like that with you. Damn! All that mess about when females talk about what they won't do, just remember pulling into that with you. Well, guess what, baby? And when he says he doesn't want to have kids, he means, well, he doesn't want to do it with you. Yeah, he took a look at everything else out here. And before I sit up here and steal myself, I don't know if I want to do that with you. All right, let me go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom again right quick. I got Onan up here on Zoom for me. All right, Onan, where are you at here? I don't see Onan. He must have got up and walked away. I'll give you 5 seconds to get back over there, or you take the night off. All right, what's on your mind?
All right, what's going on? So I have a theory to make a freaking point about modern day men not being incentivized, essentially, by the quality of men that's being presented to them.
Okay, nigga, your phone is digitizing on you there. You need to be, every time he calls up, I don't know why he gets right up under the neighbor's television, whatever the hell he's doing. Move around or something, dude.
Okay.
Better yet, get some in-home Wi-Fi. Niggas trying to run this stuff off of 4G or 3G and then find out that T-Mobile is not working, y'all.
Okay.
This is not a phone issue.
Is it coming now or no?
Okay, go ahead and try again.
Still bad? Okay. All right, so like I was saying, I think you made a good point about people essentially, like the men of the generation not being incentivized to work as hard as the generation of past, because the quality of women that's being presented to us is not of the same quality as our grandmothers, right? And what I believe is that there is a current effort to essentially replace the American public with people from all over the world, and that's why you have immigration policies like the ones that are letting people do vectors like New York City and Los Angeles. And I just wanted to get your point of view on that.
Remember that governments are simple-minded mechanisms run by very petty scheming individuals. When they do go for a solution, it's usually a solution to a problem that they created. So they want a specific response. So when you see them bringing in illegals and whatnot, it's to a problem that they created, which isn't a problem for them. It's a problem for the rest of us. They make the problem and then they make, quote, a solution for it. However, it's not intended to be a long-term solution because they don't think these things through that far. Thus, the petty scheming part of it. So they only think about how do you resolve this in the short term, because government's not filled with your best and brightest. It's filled with your most devious and demonic, not your best and brightest. So they can only think in terms of what they can do. It's kind of like the Fed chairman. Jerome Powell said this a couple of years ago, and he was right when they were talking about interest rates and inflation and how do we keep this down, this, that, and the other. And Chairman Powell just came out and said that in reality, we need legislation. He said, I'm at the Federal Reserve. He said, we only have one tool we can use, and it's not a scalpel, it's a sledgehammer. You really need to have fiscal policy. So the Fed has to take action because of its mandate in light of the fiscal policy that the legislative branch refuses to put in, because they're all playing political games with each other. So it comes, when it gets left at his door, he doesn't have a scalpel, he's got a sledgehammer. We're either going up on interest rates or down, and if he has to do it, it's going to affect a bunch of other things that could be more carefully maneuvered if legislation were put in place. But they want to block each other on legislation, so it leaves it to him. 'em. Government has simple tools. They don't have complex tools. And so when it comes to things like that, that's what they do. The real threat is to the male population in general, because this is what I want to talk about before. The reason we're in this predicament right now is that males today do not understand we can't just sit on the sideline while everything goes to hell. Because men have a natural predator. Look for all your red pill folk out there to adopt this as their next saying. They'll try to reword it. You talk about the fact that what keeps creatures competitive and whatnot is having a natural predator. Well, men have a natural predator. And that natural predator is other men. What? Men have a natural predator in this society, and that natural predator is other men. In this case, in the form of the government. The men in the government are the natural predators of the men in the society. And if you are going to survive, you are going to have to fight back against this natural predator. Otherwise, he's going to gobble you up, which is what they're currently doing.
See, I was going to make a point. I think it's more having to do with basically Darwinism. You know, you made a very good point about men's predator and other men. And I think that is nature's way of essentially weaning out or thinning the herd and getting rid of their males that are not able to contribute to the society, right? Because a non-productive man and is not able to compete essentially is an anathema to whatever society that he occupies. And I think there is a constant pressure for a man to perform and essentially make something of himself so that he is able to be an asset and not a liability.
Right, but this will be natural balance. The issue is we've lost natural balance at this point because now it's become exploitative. It is one thing for men to compete against other men. It's another thing for men to be slaves. That's not competition. When you've been pushed into servitude, that's not competing against other men anymore. Because you don't get the benefits of your labor. You see, the incentive for you to compete is the added benefits that you get. That's supposed to be the incentive. The incentive is not supposed to be somebody is forcing you to perform labor, forcing you to work, and how do I maneuver a situation that forces more labor out of you? That's not competing anymore. And that's where we're at right now. We're not on our way there. That's where we're at right now, is men being pressed into servitude to work for the benefit of others. The other people get the max benefits, other people get all the perks, and the men are sitting here getting crumbs flicked off the table. Now you have become disincentivized. And what I'm telling you is that the natural predators, please remember, if a predator is not checked, he will wipe out the others. I need to remind you all that 99% of all species that have ever existed have gone extinct. Okay, but you can't put that in mankind's feet. You do understand that, don't you? For those of you, I don't care if you're the most whacked out environmentalist there is, 99% of the species that have existed on Earth since species could actually survive in the planet's atmosphere, 99% of them are gone. That wasn't mankind who did that. That wasn't something that just got done in the last 2 centuries, the last 10,000 years. So long before we ever became the dominant species, that's a natural system. That's something that happens along the way there. Predators will wipe out other species. If you allow them to, if a natural predator is allowed to, he'll gobble these up until there's nothing left. And what they do is move on to a new place, assuming, of course, they have a new hunting ground to move on to. Do it wrong and there won't be that. So as men, we don't have the luxury of allowing people to gobble our foot and then be like, okay, hopefully he's hungry enough and he won't be back. That's not the way this will work. Right. Because their goal is not to gobble our foot. Their goal is to press us into servitude and for us to get nothing. Elon Musk gets $100 billion and you get $50,000 a year for working for him.
Yeah. You know, you make a very point. I'm going to land with this part. I am a firm believer that a person is enslaved by that which they cannot control. And essentially, the powers that be I think, have purposely taken the power from the Lord, whatever power that we are able to muster, by making us essentially perpetual servants, right? We work for whatever company, whether it be a Walmart or an Amazon, whatever Fortune 500 company, but we're essentially perpetual servants to these companies. And so we're constantly under the thumb of the employer. And I think once our resources zapped, I think we're just eliminated.
But the issue is it's not just the employer, because my whole point tonight's program was do not be deceived. The headline talks about women, but this is the government complaining. And it's not just the UK, it's the US. This is not the women. The employers, of course, are pushing a lot of this stuff, but this is the government complaining that the men, we need to figure out how to get the men back out, get the slaves back out there working and working their asses off. In times gone by, you were incentivized by chasing sex or whatever. What do you do when the males are like, the females are no longer even suitable for that? Now, what's your incentive to goad the men into working their asses off anymore? Thank you very much for giving us a call. I mean, it used to be the lure that they could use was that the men are going to want sex. So in order to get that, you got to do things a certain way. Okay. Well, what do you do when the men are like, yeah, these females not worth the sex. Their sex is not worth it. That's the problem with allowing the females to get rocked out, cracked out, and trashed out. When that kind of mess right there happens, that's what occurs. Once again, to remind everyone here, when you see a chick covered and littered in tattoos, absolutely littered in tattoos, I don't have to ask how many men you've been with. I don't have to ask how many men you've been with. I can see it all over your body about how you care for yourself and what you think of yourself. Piercings, tattoos, a bunch of weird stuff. So you have no problem with folk feeling and pawing all over you. All right, that's might be suitable sex material, although that's questionable too. But it certainly is not wife or mother material. That's something a man can commit to lightly for maybe 30 minutes. He cannot commit to that for the rest of his life. And the government is upset because people come and go, but the government is intended to endure. Well, that can't happen if the men are refusing to make any long-term investment in the society. That's what everybody is so damn angry about, and what tonight's program has been sitting up here discussing. Everybody is getting angry because the men are refusing to make a long-term investment. And the reason for that is because in the generation of the worst, most raggedy, low-value female generation ever, there's nothing worth investing in. And you won't be able to bully or badger or nag or shame or anything else to get men to say, okay, well, everybody wants us to do this. Let's go along to get along. Let's go along to get along. Okay, what if the men don't want to go along to get along anymore because there's nothing to be gained for it? What they thought was that if sex was restricted, that's the reason why they want to go after pornography and everything else like that. They want to go after anything that gives an alternative outlet because they want the men to be trapped and that their only sexual outlet is whatever low level of gutter quality females that the society's water level is settled to. Well, the men just need to pick the best among the trash. This is where we're at today, where they're trying to bully and pressure men to make a choice to pick out something from the trash heap, as opposed to something that the men would want to compete for. But it has to be worth it. It has to be worth it. And a chick that has had everybody's hands, every man's hands, and practically every woman's hands, and whatever else all over her, man, that ain't nothing you commit to. There's a bunch of dudes sitting around out here right now. Yo chick has a sex video. Yo chick been with other females. The chick been run through. You're sitting up here fighting off her damn kids on your couch. And people sitting up here trying to pressure you into making a lifelong commitment. They want the men to get bogged down so there's a lifelong commitment. They don't like that because the men are saying something different here. Okay, you might as well listen to what the hell they're saying, because this on the screen right here, this ain't fly. That's not fly. There's nothing about this right here that a man's going to be investing in. Not a man who makes a commitment to anything. The females have glummed on the slut culture and whatnot because the females are resorting to simple tools. Yeah, you're trying to use sex to compensate for the intelligence, the competence, the nurturing, the wisdom, the insight that you don't have. You see, when a female actually has the ability to complement what a man's doing, she doesn't have to put all her chips on sex and, well, take a look at all the sexual stuff I can do and I'll do it with anybody, anywhere, anytime. A woman doesn't have to rely on that. She doesn't have to be a one-trick pony when she's got options. When a woman actually has feminine characteristics, motherly characteristics, wifely characteristics, competency skills, she doesn't have to sit up here and everything is damn me licking forks and acting like some low-budget stripper. She doesn't have to do that. She doesn't have to do that. This is what you have to resort to when you are having failure to develop. And then the other thing that I was making the point about is then when you take a look at the damn comments, the men don't think this is fly. It's a bunch of females sitting up here congratulating each other. There's the real problem. The females are sitting up here congratulating this. It isn't any men doing it. So I want you all to see that this is how far that's going, and it goes way beyond that. The articles don't discuss this part right here. Well, Jason, they're not all like that. These are just two women. No, it's not. Look at the comment section. No, it's not just two women. No, it isn't. And these are just the females admitting it, because the truth of the matter is, at least a quarter of these chicks, listen to me right now, you've been naked in the room with another female and you're just hoping against hope that nobody ever figures it out. Last week, when I asked how many females in here have dated a professional athlete, you didn't have any females put up a football, soccer, or basketball emoji. And I've got 3 of you in here that I know you have. What? Damn! And I didn't put you on Front Street, but I just sat here and watched you. Okay, she's being quiet? Okay. Okay. I didn't say anything about it. I just wanted y'all to know I'm smarter than that, because I'm like, I know some of you in here are. And yet they didn't put up a basketball or nothing. They went AWOL. This is why the men have said, yeah, the men want to have children. They just don't want to have children with this generation of females out here. They just don't want it with them. And the real question is, you need to start doing a bunch of articles that focus on that, because there's a reason why the print media and the cable TV media is dead. They're sitting up here trying to act in denial and avoid the issue and pretend it's not what it is, and we'll just blame the men to get them back to work. It's like, no, you got to give us what we said we wanted, and then we'll talk about going back to work. Didn't say we're going, but if you want us to even start a discussion about going back to what we were doing, you're going to have to address the things we told you to. And bringing us the raggediest female generation ever, this isn't something for a man to work for. This ain't it. There's nothing here that a man wants to work for. I mean, maybe some guy who used to be a bouncer at a strip club, or some professional athlete dunce, maybe one of those clowns, but other than that. Let's go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom again. All right, let me jump back over here on Zoom. Let's see if I can get Brandon up here on Zoom for me right quick. All right, Brandon, what's on your mind?
What's going on, brother, man? Just wanted to confirm with you, though. Did you get my email?
No, I haven't gotten an email yet.
Oh, man, I sent it to you last week, though, man. That's what my main concern was. I was like, you would have emailed me back by now. So, okay, then, man, I'll go ahead and report you the email again. I just didn't want to bother you with. But to go on what you're talking about tonight on tonight's broadcast, brother. I said it weeks ago around the Valentine's Day broadcast, man. It's true. These dudes out here already know, man, that these chicks out here are really just for free. It really is. It really is, though, Jason. That's why they're not putting up any money, none whatsoever about it, because these dudes because most men already know that these chicks are out here doing things for free, just like that lesbian, this chicks sitting up here kissing on each other. Man, you already know these women don't put any money towards other females. They don't invest. They don't do anything for one another. So while the fact she's sitting up here getting all sexual with each other, you see all these women in these comments giving all this praise about it, you already know that these chicks have not invested any time, any money, and spent any dang on thing to get any of that sexual attraction. So you already know. Men know. You do not have to pay anything to get these chicks in the damn bed. They already ran through, had lesbian experiences. They've already done it all, and they've got nothing to show for it. Henceforth, remember Ashley from the last broadcast on Patreon. That right there was that last week on Patreon. That was the most giving thing out there. She was on that same damn thing. She was sitting up here paying for dudes' dates, sitting up here getting not acquiring anything, acquiring dudes to waste her damn time, not getting any damn thing. And then when she needed a man, that's when she called you. And she repaid your actions by disrespecting your intelligence. That's what she did. And that's what men already know, which is why we're not doing anything for these females. Men have, the word has been let on out, and there's really almost nothing that these females can do to really reverse it. I think that men have just nuked the whole female generations by now, and they just wrote it on off. There's not going to be any individualism. They're not going to be, oh, well, I'm not like that, and hopefully no. We all are. You've just been written on off, and men are not going to invest in this generation of females because they already know if you really wanted to have sex with me, it would be for free. I wouldn't have to pay anything. I wouldn't have to do any damn thing. I would not have to go ahead and take you out to dinner, not even so much as just take you on out for coffee. You either gonna drop off them draws or nothing. And you can't make me miss that, because we already know. If you really like me like that, it would be for free, not cheap. Grandma's generation used to say, a woman was cheap. They used to call women back then cheap. You would give it on up for cheap. No, this generation of women is for free. They're not cheap. They're free. So all that sexual attention, like the same way she was giving them, you showed the video of these females kissing and doing all this stuff and sitting up in here feeding each other lobster and shrimp, and all these females just sitting up here giving them praise and wishing that they was like that. Man, look, you already know when a female is in a lesbian relationship, you already know she cheats. Women don't invest nothing. I don't give a damn if she a stud or not. You ain't never seen no stud ever buy no damn chick or car or do nothing or do anything manly. So when a woman is already engaging in lesbianism, that already let you know she cheat, not cheat free. So these females out here, bro, they are pretty much just screwed. And you cannot get brothers or any males whatsoever to really take these females seriously and get us on a hamster wheel to protect and provide and buy houses and cars and do anything for these females, because their best assets have already been acclaimed to be for free. Sex does not rule the world. It does, but only in a sense of actually it will be something that will be easily something that will be hard to obtain and acquire. Now it's just free. She's not giving it to you for free. No need to bring your wallet on the date. No need to do anything. Matter of fact, if you remember Ashley, she'll pay. The woman will pay for your company if she really wants you. And if she's not for free or willing to pay, then guess what that means? She's not interested in you. Point blank, period. And what the government and what a lot of these people are trying to do is trying to get men so that they can be able to use us when they want to. As that dude from Britain tried to say, maybe we can tax you guys, put a tax for the guys who don't have kids, gouge your money. Either you can either do it willfully or we can force you to subsidize and pay for these females and their bastard children, and for the dudes who want to sit up here and make 8, 9, 10 babies and don't want to take care of them. Maybe we can just force you men to just pay for it all. And dudes are men, we are not going for that. And it has just been a completely ridiculous thing and notion that even suggests that we will. This generation of women is just plain out screwed. It is nothing that they can do. I just really just believe in my heart of hearts that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just really just look at it on the outside and just say, I think the men have pulled a move from 8 Mile. When Eminem was on the stage battling against Papa Doc, he basically, when he just said, you know what, I am white, I am an effing bum, I do live in a trailer with my moms. He just really went on out and just really just went on here and dissed himself and left him with nothing else to say. And I think that's what a lot of dudes have done with now. You know what? I'm not that guy. I'm not Mr. Cool. I'm not fly. I'm not any of those damn things. So you know what though? That is what it's going to be. But I know one damn thing. As he said, I know something about you. You don't have a future. You're going to work that job. Ain't nobody finna buy you no car. And you're going to work for that company, Miss Thing, all the way up until the day you die. With no help and no bond out of it, none whatsoever. If I'm just a loser and I'm just so bad and just a loser, then guess what? We just both gonna be losers. Now, while that may not be a good idea, but that just seems like where it is right now. It kind of just leaves them all in a stalemate. Because I want to know, woman to say to a man when he's just like, you know what? You gotta be really, when a woman's orbiter, let's say that her orbiter, which is what I say back on the Valentine's Day thing. What happens when a woman's orbiters says, you know what? You gotta be in a really effed up situation to even be talking to me right now. And I just want to know, Jason, what does a woman say to that? When it's just plain on out, just that clear, and he's not a nice guy, or I've changed, I've learned to like you. It's none of those things. You know what, though? Let's just call it what it is. Help a spade a spade. You are never like me. You do not want to be over here. You just in an effed up situation. And if you ever get up out of it, like Ashley did, you're going to run on out straight to the first damn nigga they'll shoot and recreate these problems all over again. and I'm not going for it.
Well, look, I mean, back in the 70s and 80s and going to the early 90s, you had a bunch of, we talked about back then when the bastard baby epidemic was starting and the single mother epidemic was starting and whatnot. But the truth of the matter is, when I talk about the females having been ruined, you've got a whole couple of generations now that are completely devoid of female sensibility whatsoever. The worst thing I can hear from a female is talking about her and her daddy. When I hear a chick got a father in the home now, I'm like, okay, I know he probably ain't gonna be about nothing. And by and large, that's pretty much what happened, because you don't have the females, their mothers don't choose competent men. So they either are single mothers with no man in the home, or they are single mother minded with a simp man in the home. So competent men raising competent daughters suitable to competent men, those are the minority. Most of these guys out here today, the women are choosing deficient males who will cater to her bloated ego, not one who's actually going to lead anything. So yeah, he's produced there's a new chick turning 18 every 12 seconds. Well, yeah, that's true, but that does not change the quality of the homes that are raising them. She is not separate and apart from that. So you have a nation of degenerate, deficient homes raising a new 18-year-old every 12 seconds. That's what you have. You have that conveyor belt. It's not a conveyor belt of competence. And so as a result, the men have just said, hey, wait a minute, this costs us a whole lot more than it costs your daughter. Your daughter gonna come up. This is gonna be a bill and a burden. And what's happening is the fellas are either having fewer kids or no kids at all. And the society is ringing the alarm because they don't have a tool to force us to do so. And if anybody thinks that taxation thing will work, you know how you avoid taxes is work even less. So they don't have a real weapon to use. They got idle threats. They don't actually have anything. You can't force the women to have the children. Well, guess what? You can't force the men to get them pregnant either. You can't do that either. So the politicians are really stuck with their scheme. It should give more incentive for the men to punish the politicians, by the way, on top of everything else. But no, you don't get out of this, because the bottom line is the females on both sides, mother and father, are being raised and conditioned to be deficient. That's what's going on. So everything becomes silly. Every conversation becomes silly conversations. Every reaction becomes silly reactions. Because the women have been told that they're not responsible for their actions and they won't be accountable for it. The men will be accountable. So you can be as silly as you sit out here and block the way and be an obstacle. And when it needs to get cleaned up, that's the men's job, is to clean up the messes. Well, that's what their so-called fathers taught them. Their fathers taught them it's a woman's job to mess things up and it's a man's job to clean up the mess. So dad either said it or she observed father doing it. What she didn't observe was a man saying a woman does not create messes. A competent female doesn't make messes to begin with. That is not the burden that's been put on them. So what you have are the blind leading the blind, the deficient leading the deficient. Now you got generations of it. Competent women are in frighteningly low supply. And as a result, the men have just basically withdrawn from the genetic lottery altogether. And so on the one hand, that's understandable. But what it also means is what you're doing is hyper concentrating the procreation of the ignorant and the stupid and the worthless. So that same worthless chick who just turned 18, well, she's not suitable for a competent male, but that doesn't mean she's not going to have children. But she's going to have it by an equally dense dunce, i.e. PJ Washington. I mean, that guy is just a cesspool machine. That's what he's done with his millions, from one slutty broad to another. So he's just constantly contaminating the gene pool.
Yeah, but those guys are very in the minority, though, man. That's still like.
The females are not. The PJ Washingtons are few and far between, but the Brittany Renners and the Aishas and the Chickie married, those are not in small supply. So that's why I'm bringing him up. That's why he's got the run of them, even though he had to go grab a single mom. He's got the run of them because trashy females are Men who make seven figures are in the minority, but trashy females are the majority. And that's where we're at today.
Yeah, most definitely so. But you know what, though, man? I don't know what is it going to go ahead and take for these females to really just wake on up to the fact that, hey, this is not going to go ahead and be a safe life for you. Most men are not trying to build a comfy life, though, just to go ahead and give it away to just some rent, just give it away to any old broad. That's not what dudes are getting their stuff together for. That's not what we're sitting up here building up our credit, working this hard, calling you, talking to you, doing things for to drop it on off to just some scummed out skanky broad, though, when we just already know that, a lot of these damn chicks, though, shit, are just free. There's nothing you have to really go ahead and do. If she want to go ahead and do that, she gonna do that with you, regardless if you do anything for her at all. So let me ask you, what could be a motivation to a man, though, for that, when it comes down to just that conclusion? If this chick really wanted to have sex with me, if it's really going to lead anywhere, it's going to be for free and no effort on my part, or nothing at all. And if she just doesn't come around, then she just doesn't come around.
Well, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sex can't be the purpose or the goal. There's the first issue. Because when men make sex an objective, automatically you lost leverage and you've lost authority. First of all, you lost focus. That's the first thing. Sex should be a side effect in life. It should not be a goal. So the first thing that we have is a lot of sex-starved males because their goals aren't together. So they end up becoming hyper-competitive for that because they're not actually accomplishing anything of any value or significance or consequence. So they end up becoming a bunch of sexual vagrants and buzzards, all just flying around all day, seeing if they can find something dead. And that's what they end up doing. So first and foremost, as men, the priority needs to be your purpose, separate and apart from females altogether. When you look back over your life, the most powerful rooms that you were in, there wasn't a female there. What? That's the first thing you got to think about. As men, when you look back on the most powerful rooms you were in, the most consequential rooms you were in, the most significant experiences in your life, it had nothing to do with females or sex at all. We lose sight of that when we lose sight of our purpose. That first of all, a man's purpose needs to be something that's separate and apart from a female. That just needs to be a side effect. So that's what ends up going wrong. And the other thing is, as men as a group, our biggest move is really not even for the women. Our biggest move is for the other men. The salary simping and the pension pimping and whatnot, the men got to lock down on other men. The men got to put a foot in the ass of other men. The men got to deal with other men. The men got to let the other men know you off code, you're out of line, you're messing up the game. The men have to be brutal about that with other men. We can certainly complain about it with the females, but please understand, women will lower their standards of subsistence as time goes on. Yeah, she might want an NBA player, and she may slut herself out for 20 years trying to get one and never achieve it. But when she's got to throw this buzzer beater at the end of her life, she's going to go take the guy who works down at the water plant when she comes running up to him with her 4 kids in tow. As men, we got to make sure that that fella right there don't break ranks and break out of line. He has to be kept in check. Right there. He got to be kept in check. The fellow who's sitting up here bragging, he's brought his productivity and grabbed the first single mom, and yet he's bragging. That's the guys right there that we have to lock down on. They have to be shamed by us because they're accountable to us. PJ Washington is nothing without the men. Women don't pay for the bills for that. Women don't pay for the jerseys. Women don't pay for the tickets. Women don't pay for the shoes. Michael Jordan did not become a $1 billion brand off of women. That is solely at the feet, pardon the expression, of men. So therefore, If we are the reason they got it, then they're accountable to us. If we are afraid or unwilling to first and foremost leverage the punishment mechanism and the accountability mechanism on the men, ain't nothing gonna change. Because the females will start begging for scraps and they'll start eating out the dumpster if there is a dumpster to eat out of. You remove the dumpster and all of a sudden then things get super critical super quickly. So as men, we have to be able to perform to provide a high level of benefits. That's one half of it. That must always be the priority, is your ability to provide benefits. And then there's got to be penalties. If you do not meet the standard, the penalty is you don't exist. What do females want more than anything else? Attention. They want attention from a high level man. However, if they can't get that and she's all out of options, then she'll take whatever alley cat dude comes along. The real thing is for that level or whatever the quality of that to be as low as numerically possible. And you got too many fellas out here telling the truth. Too many fellas out here are waiting their turn. So the very females that they will allegedly be complaining about here, he'll have no problem marrying the ex-porn star, ex-stripper, 5-time baby mama, aged out the game. He'll have no problem doing that if he finally gets his turn, even if she's showing up 2 decades later with a bunch of kids in tow.
I think I disagree on that one, though. Only in the context of only on the context that the word is kind of definitely on out about marrying a hoe. Or about marrying a hoe. The worst part about marrying a hoe is that once you marry her ass, she ain't gonna be a hoe no more. That's pretty much almost the worst part about all. So you already gonna have her with the sex tape, all the damn sex tape she done, all the body counts, the kids, and all the STDs or whatever else she got. Then she's gonna turn around and turn into a straight up prude. And that's what all the guys who I've ever seen try to go wipe up the town skank or the town or the neighborhood jump off ever had. They was all, every time I ever heard from those damn dudes, though, they'd just be like, man, this broad I ain't fucking with her. She ain't just doing nothing. I gotta go find me something else. Like, nigga, I know what you got with her photo and shit. She was a big ass freak. Now she's not gonna be that for you. That's about the worst thing. And that, to me, that's probably about the worst damn thing you can do. Dumbest damn thing you can do, though, shit, is to wipe up even getting married, period. Sex goes out the window, period. But shit, the worst damn part about being about if you're gonna marry a hoe, shit, you can get ready for that hoe to turn into a prude.
Yeah, I mean, and the older fellas get, the less competitive they become, so that's really a problem. So the younger guys are just opting out altogether. That's why they're writing all the articles. It's a lot of these old niggas out here. They get middle-aged, they get near retirement or at retirement, and the bottom line is they never had really any options. He's been doing a bunch of work, and he never really had any options. So when he gets 5-6 inches of wiggle room financially, he goes out and say, man, screw it. Let me just go buy something. Let me just go, hey, ladies, my wallet's open. Who wants a bite? And it becomes that. Who wants first dibs on my pension? It becomes that right there. Raggedy as hell. And there's competition for that. I mean, there are fellas who, like I say, at the end of the day, and you as a truck driver, you know this. I mean, the lots are filled with them. They're willing to sit up here and wait, and they'll just take whatever dregs come floating along. So now the only thing in that situation, they have to keep working for it. It gets harder as you get older. So a bunch of dudes out here trying to get into a position not to have a quality female, but just to have regular access, totally regardless of quality. There's where we're in trouble at. That's the issue right there. And as you all know, I've been a voice out here in the wilderness screaming this now for well over a decade. The red pill movement, by and largely, has ignored this issue in favor of their own personal aggrandizement, because that's low-hanging fruit. They're very, very willing to do that. But with that being the case, they're not really serving things very well, because shaking your finger at the females, that's not going to stop it. I'm not doing this because I want the females to listen and y'all hoes need to get together. I'm talking to the men. When I do these programs, I'm talking to the men about, okay, this is what the status of it is, and this is what we need to do about it as a group. Jackasses making so-called red pill content complaining about the females being sluts, that's not fixing it. Okay, the men are having fewer children. Well, if that's part of a conscious, coordinated effort, that is a very, very helpful factor, pulling back from it. But that's not enough. You can't just pull back from the females. You've got to pull forward for yourself. If you don't have those two elements together, then this doesn't work. I'll let you have the last word.
But is there enough females that would rather say they would rather be a servant in the castle than be the queen of their own of a shithole? Is there enough? Will that change? Because there's a lot of stubborn females out there just like, you know what? I'd rather just live in squalor. I'd rather just be struggling. I'd rather live off the government and do whatever low down, skullduggerous, degenerate things I have to go ahead and do before I actually be subservient to a damn man. Is there enough? Does that actually catch females' attention when you can sit back and say, you know what? Hold up here. You don't qualify for it. You have to do this and be this to qualify.
Well, first of all,
the
welfare food stamps thing is really dried up for the most part. You haven't had Section 8 housing available. I mean, the waiting lists are like winning the lottery. So that hasn't really been available like that. So yeah, most of these chicks have had to get out here and work. Most of them have to get out here and work and do something. So they've been pushing the baby daddy hustle to the extent that they can. But that's another reason why these females are having fewer children is because, yeah, it's not as easy to get a government check and to be able to get some dues on child support as it used to be. It's not nearly as easy. And even if you do win that particular lottery, you're not getting very much because it's gotten so damn expensive out here. So that's not the flex or the benefit or the come up that it used to be in days past. Those options are limited. Now you add to that you have social media opening up a whole new world of exposure and knowledge about what's really out there. And you don't get any of that if you're operating at that level. Please understand, females never give up on wanting it. So even when they do finally find the guy that they want to squat down with, it's never going to be a happy situation for him because she's in her mind, she's settling. She's not settling. She's accepting her pay grade. In her mind, she's settling. And she's never going to get off his back about him achieving a level of success and provision for her that he's incapable of doing. And even if he were, she's not worth it. So it's all about getting a guy. And if he's not already there, she'll get a guy and then see if I can crack the whip on him and see if I can get him into shape. Eventually, it's going to do that. Or, what it becomes, things just get frigid. And then it becomes this passive aggressive thing, folks are just not doing things. Oh, we're not having sex. We're not having kids. We're not cooking meals. I'm not going on vacation. I'm not going to pay for this. It becomes that right there. And the half of the married men out there are locked in that kind of situation. Half the married men are locked in a situation where basically you're just coexisting with this disagreeable person and you don't really want to do anything special for them or extend yourself anymore because it's not worth it and they're not worth it. And you're just married on paper, but this is hardly what you were aspiring for or desiring. And it's not something you can go brag about to other men. When you go on social media, you see a bunch of single moms sitting up here trying to brag about being married. You see the men saying nothing. Yeah, because you're not anything for him to brag on. That's the pressure that we have to apply. That right there. As men, you have to mock these guys. See, that's why they hated it when we went on Russell Wilson. They did not want us to make that the international thing. They despised it when we did that because the whole value was supposed to be that Russell was going to redeem her, and instead we made Russell a laughing stock. So the value of getting a Russell Wilson got put in the trash, and that was it. Their biggest fear is that we make that a normalized thing.
Oh yeah, that was monumental what you did to what we did over here to Russell Wilson, man. Though that broke a lot of females. That whole notion, you're gonna go find a simp well-to-do simp later on in life, though, and every damn thing will be peachy keen, and you see the men literally laughing at him, making him just an outcast and socially punishing him for being with her. Yeah, that was monumental. Like, why are you guys punishing Russell? Because he got with Ciara.
And we're making an example out of him. We're making an example out of him for all the others. So yes, this is about Russell, but then again, it's got nothing to do with him. This is about making an example out of him for all the others. So you see, after that, we're already pre-programmed to laugh at PJ Washington. We're already pre-programmed to laugh at Nick Cannon and all the rest of them. When you do that, you're already pre-programmed to do that once they start doing stupid stuff. That trickles down to the rank and file males, because that's what you really have to deal with. 99% of men are never going to be around a Ciara type female. That's not going to be happening. Well, no, that's why I point out, the women who put up their IG posts, that's one thing, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the females in the comment section. That's who you are most likely going to be running into. And that's where the pressure needs to be applied, but you don't apply it to the women. You apply it to the men that the women are looking to for a bailout, to let them know, hey, dude, stand up. We don't sit down. We don't do that. That's where the pressure needs to be applied. That these fellas out here on Facebook and whatnot get the Russell Wilson treatment. And males need to call it out up front. Call it out up front. It's like, dude, well, not for me, but I mean, if that's what you wanted to do, I mean, go ahead. But yeah, not for me. I'm not really trying to sit up here and take care of Future's kids, bro. Not for me. When the men call this out and other men see, being desperate, all that does is get you mocked and laughed at. When that catches on across the board, that's going to have more of an effect than anything else.
Yeah, you right on that one, though, and you most definitely right on that one. And it's almost scary to the point that, like I told you a few broadcasts ago about, even when I was down there just hanging with my uncles at the bar, and these damn dudes was like, though, man, hey, man, you're buying. I'm buying rounds and shots and stuff, though. And they're like, man, you done bought some females, some rounds and shots. No, homie, we don't do that. Don't you buy them anything. Don't you buy these women anything. And I'm like, though, damn, man, you know what I mean? No shit. I mean, like, damn, man, I bought the guys around. No, I'm just buying shots. They're like, man, no. They had to pull my coattail and say, don't you buy these women any damn thing. And you can best and believe you know it, though, Jason. Even when I had that platinum card on out, it was these females sitting up in here really trying to go ahead and think that they was really, like, flexing on me, trying to flex on me, thinking that I was just so forth and catering to them like I was some type of big trick. And I'm like, girl, please, this don't mean a damn thing to me. But that just goes to show you how far that, these men have knocked these damn women down, and they don't really have anything. And to the point that, it's damn near scary almost, to a point, though, that like, girl, please, you are just a female that is completely for free. So, and I don't know how much further they can go back down before they try to just realize, hey, this stuff ain't working. How many more how many wannabe baddies that they can be on out here? But but we're going to keep on pushing down till we find on out. That's fine. This spine is very flexible, but shoot, it's going to break eventually. Man, be one to your brother. I'll holler at you later.
Send me an email and make sure you put your number in there also, so I can give you a call here in a little bit.
No problem, brother.
Yeah, like I say, man, the fellas have to be tamped down on. We have to clamp down on the men. We got to clamp down on the dudes. There's too many fellas out here desperate as hell, and then they start doing stupid things. You can't have discipline as men in the society if we don't have discipline as men among ourselves. That's the part that's missing. Yeah, the females out of line and this, that, and the other, but the solution to that is not going to be, well, if we just nag and nag the females enough that eventually they'll give in. That's not the way. That doesn't work. That's never worked. You have to have rewards and you have to have penalties. You got to have rewards and have penalties, and the rewards should be difficult to get. And penalties should be stiff and severe, especially if you've been a problem. The issue that we have is we have a bunch of sexual scavenger males out here, and they have no problem dumpster diving. You see, when E40 made that song, Captain Save a Hoe, see, that was putting niggas on code. Hey, dude, what you caping over here for? But, you know, it's been damn near a quarter of a century. We're going on 30 years since Captain Save a Hoe came out. And the problem is the music industry has been overrun by a bunch of single mama bastard baby drug heads. So they sitting up here laying up with any damn low life chick who slithers her slime trail into the room. So those are the guys right there. So they're not making an anthem like that anymore. They're not making the anthems calling that out anymore. They just like, hey, calling all the hoes. And then you see all of them are screwed up and messed up. And the music industry likes that because that makes sure that they're already in servitude before they can even get off the ground. But you see, we used to have slogans and anthems that made it clear to all the fellas what we own and what we about. It pulled your collar to it. And that's what it was supposed to be. We're in the internet age, that should be easier and simpler to do now than ever, and yet we don't have that. And the red pill movement has been outrageously deficient. So yeah, in certain regards, they are talking about quote unquote the cuck chair, but they're doing it for the wrong people. That's the problem right there. They're doing it for the wrong people. You can talk about Akash, you can talk about Pierce Morgan, and sure, that should be stated. But yeah, that's not where the real fire and the real heat needs to be. The real fire and the real heat needs to be at the ground level. We got to have the real fire and the real heat at the ground level. With the rank and file at your job, at your school, at your stadium sports event, on your social media, that's where the real heat needs to be. Because the problem is you have a bunch of dudes out here talking one thing and then marrying another and whatnot. I wouldn't be no bailout till it's his turn to be the bailout. And the reason they're doing that is because what have been the social consequences? These were a bunch of the guys, they didn't like it when I was lighting up Russell Wilson. They didn't like that either because they knew full well they were willing to take that deal. Only the chick they get ain't gonna be nowhere near what Ciara looks like. So yeah, you gonna get the real damn leftovers in the trash bag. They didn't like that. As men, the way for us to deal with this is to get the fellas on code across the board, but that's gonna be tough on them. That's going to be tough because a lot of fellas are going to have to admit to themselves what they're really willing to do. A lot of fellas are going to have to admit to themselves and have to accept that, yeah, we see you. That's the problem with males being sex starved. They'll talk a good game on one hand, but leave them to their own devices, and next thing you know, well, Jaden, I looked into her heart, I found a single mom with her. She done changed, Jaden. She done changed. I mean, she got the kid. And really, that's a reflection on you and your lack of ability. I mean, she believe in traditional values now, Jason. She believe in traditional values, so we can make a commitment. This is where the hell you're at. So I want the fellas to understand that in taking into account all things being equal, we have to be very, very firm about this with the men. The females are counting on a bailout. The bailout is going to be there if the men don't start calling out other men when they do that. I got a couple dudes here right now. I'm going to say this tonight. I have two fellas. And I'm going to go into a little bit of detail here without saying your names, but I'm going to say enough right now to get your damn attention because this is raggedy and off code. I got actually three fellas. Two of them ex-military. One, I don't believe he is. These military cats are the worst. Just the absolute worst. Nigga, you talking about her. You spazzing out. No, you trying to be big timing and whatnot. And bruh, I couldn't help but notice you talking her up, man. And she doesn't even mention you.
What? Damn!
Oh, I said that. You all know this isn't rare. I'm not going to say your names, but you run around on Valentine's Day.
Damn!
Damn!
Did Jason just go there? Hell yeah, I just went there. You run around on Valentine's Day and whatnot, and I'm like, okay, I couldn't help but notice you cupcaking and this, that, and the other. But in case you didn't notice, my nigga, if you go over to her page, dude, she ain't got a word about you. In case you didn't notice, she ain't really repping you like that. And for one of you, she is mentioning you, but the stuff she's saying ain't really flattering when you think about it. I'm not going to go too much more into detail there. Not going to go too much more into detail because I ain't going to blow the whole damn spot up. But yeah, wanted to let you know that, by the way, yeah, that for the fellas out there doing that, if it weren't for the fact that it would just completely detonate the spot for you. However, maybe it needs to come to that. Maybe it does need to come to that, y'all. Maybe this polite stuff is really not working. Maybe it needs to come to that. Maybe it needs to come to dudes getting called out and it's like, okay, wait a minute. Who is it out here saving all these hoes and sluts and strippers? Who in the hell is it doing this? Because you cannot correct behavior across the board when you got some low-life group in the background waiting in the wings to come and rectify it on the back end, and the females know. Well, Jason, there are more guys starving who are lying about what they'll do than y'all got. So the females know this. Like, yeah, well, I don't want him, but hell, if I'm going to be a predator, might as well get one. And then off they go. And it becomes that. It becomes that. So what really ends up happening here is a lot of these fellas are just pretending. They show up here and stuff. It'll be rah-rah, and they'll talk a big talk, but it's like, catch them on the back end. And then there they are doing the most. And then showing just how easily geeked up they are. I mean, his benefits and whatever. It's like, hey, worry about that right there. I mean, man, they become damn mean Luther Vandross and Barry Manilow. She is just the greatest ever. It's wonderful right here. She's the greatest with all them kids, really? That's the greatest? She's the greatest looking like Red Fox? What? That's the greatest? Really? See, the real reason is that when a man looks in the mirror and he sees a competitor and a winner, it's going to make it hard for him to choose something that obviously is not on that level to be his representative. It's going to be hard for him to do that. But let's just be honest. A lot of these fellas are, I'm going to just say it like this. A lot of these dudes, you would fit in on Epstein Island because you want everything to be on the low. It's like, I don't want them to see this over here. It's like, all right. But we can see that because she over here talking. And dudes are not doing enough. It's not doing enough, man. Look, as men, we're going to have to be willing to make some enemies. We're going to have to be willing to make some enemies and call some folk out and put this on Front Street and make this the central issue. The desperate fellas who sit up here and keep settling. It's got to be that. We're going to have to make some enemies. We're going to have to make some enemies about these fellas. Let them know, hey, bruh, she ain't nothing to flex over. And let her know, hey, baby, you ain't nothing for him to flex about. Yeah, very nice. You got your degree. Very nice. You got your little job. Very nice. You got your little career. Baby, ain't nothing here really to flex over. There's nothing really to flex over. That's the conversation needs to happen. Just straight up. Well, what are we doing, bro? You need to be real quiet with that. You should be very, very humble. But that's going to require males who ain't sitting back waiting their damn turn. Because quiet is kept. Let's just say it like it is. A bunch of these fellas, they waiting on their turn. Even if it turns out they waiting for something to happen, so they don't give a damn what it is. You see all these sexual vagrants and beggars and panhandlers for panties all over the damn place. They sit up and they do that stuff because they waiting their damn turn. They don't care if the chick got kids. They don't care if the chick is married. They don't care if the chick is old as hell. When you see fellas liking chicks' posts, every female anywhere, there's always going to be a bunch of dudes liking the post. And you're giving yourselves away. You're blowing your cover, dudes. We see what y'all are doing. You show up on their posts, you're liking and whatnot. You're like, you just hoping this. Or fellas are out here, orbiting whole solar systems, y'all.
What?
They're not just orbiting one female. They're just orbiting entire star systems. Everywhere you go, they're like the old wore out ass church deacon pretending to be, quote, friendly. Oh, hey, girl, I'm just friendly there. And women are not stupid. Women just play stupid. Women are not dumb. They know full damn well the only reason you liking is, if ever you showed up in the damn DMs. Oh, she just friendly. Girl, I'm just friendly. I really do like what you post, as if these women are posting a bunch of deep stuff.
Nigga, please.
That's the sickening part right there. You niggas sit up here and like their posts as if these females are posting a bunch of insightful, deep things. Like they really posting something that's really great. She's posting about where the hell she went to work. She's posting about her damn dog getting his toes clipped. She's posting about sitting up here, oh, I bought a new book for college. Oh, girl, that's good right there. You getting your degree? Oh, how many more classes you got left to the end of the semester right there? Oh, that's good. We need more educated women out here. You lame ass nigga. Yeah, my numbers dropped when I said that right there. They hate when I start saying things like this. Yes, you are a super lame nigga. Hey, that's right, girl. Hey, you doing good right there. Go ahead and get your continual certification. You're just hoping that when she posts about graduation, oh, girl, that's right. I knew you was going to do that right there. Hey, can I come to the graduation? Okay, he thinks he found his move. He think he found his opening. He's been waiting years for that. He been waiting years to get that opening. Oh, girl, we're in graduation right there. I'll come down and see you there. That's good. Like he gives a damn about anything you've ever posted. These are low-life bottom feeder tactics for the lowest of the low. Well, you know, I mean, that's good right there. I like that pose. Every time you turn around, he's liking it. He wants to make sure he remains visible. She posts the silliest damn stuff. There he is, liking it. You is beautiful, queen. We see you clown ass niggas. We see you. Everybody sees you. Here's the issue for the fellas listening to me. Okay, you can see them, but you don't want to be them. And this needs to be a common talking point that folks are reading everywhere. It's like, yeah, you fellas sitting up here liking this stuff. It's no disrespect to the women, but ladies, it's not like y'all post a bunch of deep stuff like that. They post scriptures. They post about some kindergarten. They post a bunch of stuff that if I as a man posted that, none of these fellas would acknowledge I even said anything. And women know this. Women know that most males are simply starved for female exposure. Just to have any female they can talk to at all or be exposed to the company of. They don't even get female company. So she posts something here, you like it. They know full damn well, okay, if I want to get my attention hit for today, let me just post something. They post a selfie of herself, hadn't done her hair, hadn't put on no makeup. Hello, world. Here come the church deacons. Like. Oh, you're a cute, natural beauty. You going to class today, girl? And it becomes that. So we see them fellas out there. We see them. And men have to say something about that. Because they're trying to fly below the radar and whatnot, and the only thing that works is to clown them, the females. Remember, the women are not going to stop because she's getting something out of it. It's the men, once you realize, bruh, yeah, you make this move and niggas clown you. When that becomes the norm, fewer of them go for it. So somebody go ahead and let the government know. Let them know that all that pressure you applying and whatnot, the men are bailed out. You can write your crazy articles trying to make it seem like, backhanded, trying to pressure the men. This isn't going to work. It's a new day. We're not looking to you for guidance. The government is the adversary. We're not looking to please the government. The government is a combative adversary. So we're not interested in pleasing you. You are not something for us to work for. You're something for us to work against. On account of the fact that you declared war on us a long time ago. You are not something for us to work for, work with, collaborate with, get along with. No, it's straight beef. It's straight beef. And so if you're saying that you don't like what we're doing, that's our first clue that we're doing it right. If the government is saying that they're unhappy with something that we as men are doing, that means we're doing the right thing. Whatever this is we doing, we need to keep this up. We need to triple down on it. If the government's complaining about something that we're doing, that tells you we need to keep doing it. On account of the fact that they have declared themselves the enemies of the people, and that the people don't matter, and that in particular they wage war against the men, it's like, okay, well then the beef is on. And we will watch your population go into decline. It's like, we'll sit right here for it. Please understand something. Please understand that of all the people who need government largesse the most, it's the politicians. Men need to remember that throughout history, the folks who quote unquote lead governments and lead countries, they have always been in a precarious situation. Y'all need to understand that. Why do you have China today? You have China today not only because of the overthrowing of the imperial family, but because of the Bolshevik Revolution. Chairman Mao watched what the Bolsheviks did. They watched what Lenin did. And then they said, we can do that here. And that's exactly what happened. The Bolsheviks overthrew the Tsar. They overthrew the royal family. That's what happens when folks are sitting in power. There's a reason why Vladimir Putin has such a brutal hold on power today, and why more people have died, more of his enemies have died falling out of windows, quote unquote, falling out of windows, than anybody before him. Because in reality, his grasp on power is very precarious. Remember, when you're in his situation, you've made a lot of enemies. Please remember that when you get in power and you start using it to be abusive, you've made a lot of enemies. Vladimir Putin's biggest fear is not that something happens to him and it touches off a war. His biggest concern is that somebody does something to him and nothing happens. That's his biggest worry. Not that something happens to him and everybody says we ride to dawn. His biggest concern is that he's made so many enemies that if anybody ever rose up against him, ain't nobody coming to save him. Take a look at Saddam Hussein. Take a look at Muammar Gaddafi. Take a look at Hosni Mubarak. Take a look at Fidel Castro. Take a look at Imelda Marcos. We can go down the list. Ferdinand Marcos, Imelda Marcos. Man, when the folk at the top get knocked off, ain't nobody sitting up here running around like that for them. They made good for themselves. I mean, Fidel's probably the only real exception to that. But when you've been abusive, you know damn well, folks don't give a damn about that. Donald Trump led a literal coup in the United States. You didn't hear outrage from the American people. You didn't see throngs of the American people coming to Washington, D.C. to defend their congressmen and defend their senators. Where were the American people to come to Washington, D.C. and to rep for the congressmen and senators there? It's like, no, we repping for them about as hard as they rep for us, which is not at all. Hope you can deal with that little situation y'all got going up there because it's your problem. It ain't our problem. Yeah, that's just how easily and how quickly you can get it. And they know it. They know damn well that's just how quick and how easy it can go down. Yes, January 6th does count because it shows them how quickly it can go down and how much the American people do not care. If they had taken out the whole government that day, the American people are not sitting up boo-hooing and talking about, oh, this is terrible and this is a shame and, oh, we sure do miss our government. Everybody knows that's not going to happen. Everyone knows that's not going to occur. Most of all the politicians, they know damn well if they got clipped, ain't nobody sitting up here going ham for them. They're not going to go ham for them. Even if it's a foreign government that gets them. Most people in America would say, well, glad they saved us the trouble. Even if a foreign government took them out. It's like, okay, well, Trump, you and Iran, y'all got some business to handle. It's a good thing I'm not near the White House when that damn thing blew up. Good thing I wasn't there. Yeah, Trump, yeah. Well, looks like you and Iran got some issues y'all need to work out. Don't call me. So just understand, these people are ultra sensitive to that. They need the population because that's the only thing that prevents them from going to the gallows, literally. how rich the country is, how capable the country is, the wealth of the country, that's the only thing that literally protects their life and limb. So they are ultra sensitive to that kind of thing. As long as the good times roll on, they'll play stupid for a while, but eventually the bill comes due. Eventually the bill comes due. And that's where they're at now. So they can whine and complain about it, but it will not change anything. All they've really let us know is that we are moving in the right direction. Time to keep moving. We are going to wrap things up here tonight. Before we do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out here to Cameron Fairchild. Thank you very much for your support here tonight. To Franklin Avery, Chris B., Charles Osterfield, Flex, Aziz, everybody else here in the Super Chat who's giving out memberships here tonight. Thank you very much for your support here as well. If you are new here to the business, welcome to the program that all your favorite YouTubers love to hate watch. I've seen 3 of you this week, 3 of you from the manosphere, 2 of you from the white manosphere. Now you're starting to adopt the lessons that I gave you and specific things that I've mentioned. So very glad to see that just as in the days of old and antiquity, you have come to sit at the feet. You've come to sit at the feet of those who've actually mastered this. And you said, damn, that was really good. And incorporate this into what you've learned. But just understand, if you don't have the whole black book, then you can't use it properly. You'll have half of it. And in the words of Brother Neely Fuller, everything else you think you know will just confuse you. But yeah, there have been about 2 or 3 of y'all who sat up here and grabbed a few of the more recent points that I've made. And you're like, damn, that was good. And now it's on your pages there. It's like, okay. All right. So if the rest of you want to keep up with this at the Definitive School of Power Dynamics, click that subscribe button and that notification. Make sure you're here with us each and every time that we are here. If you haven't been to our Patreon, the link is in the description. We've had a lot of heavy stuff here happening in the last few weeks. A lot of heavy things going on here. Don't be surprised if it gets heavier. Got to use my drop for it. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program, live or recorded. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, handle your business or your business will handle you.